Chapter 640. My force. As Tsing Hui's sword intent resonated with the sword intents of the disciples, deacons, and elders of the Rainbow Sword sect, he immediately gained a thorough understanding of his own sword force. The force of a sovereign descending. The force of a scorching sun. His sword force was like a sovereign descending upon the world, making all swords submit to him. His sword force was like a scorching sun in the sky, making the stars retreat. This was a kind of brilliant aura, this was a kind of domineering aura. Just as Tsing Hui was quietly comprehending the transformation of his sword intent into sword force, a strand of disharmonious sword intent caught his attention. Tsing Hui turned his head slightly, his gaze landing on the Scarlet Rock Sword Saint. At this moment, the Scarlet Rock Sword Saint was still activating his sword intent, but his sword intent was different from the others. His sword intent looked ordinary on the surface, but it was filled with aggression and invasiveness. It slashed directly into the core of Tsing Hui's sword intent, as if it was attacking him, trying to destroy the stability of his sword force. Scarlet Rock Sword Saint, Tsing Hui's expression turned cold. He knew that the Scarlet Rock Sword Saint had never been convinced that he would become the fourth swordmaster of the Rainbow Sword sect. He had tried to obstruct him many times, and had even complained to Swordmaster Pengguang. Unfortunately, Swordmaster Pengguang had learned from Swordmaster Changhong that Tsing Hui's battle prowess was on par with a divine overlord after only 40 years of cultivation. He had ignored the Scarlet Rock Sword Saint and agreed to Swordmaster Changhong's suggestion, pushing Tsing Hui to the position of the fourth swordmaster. Who would have thought that the Scarlet Rock Sword Saint would interfere at a crucial moment in his cultivation of sword force? This level of sword intent, Tsing Hui felt the changes in his sword essence and sword force. He immediately tried to use part of his sword force to crush Red Rock Sword Saint. Sword force was different from sword intent. His sword force was formed from the transformation of the sword intent of all living beings. Even though it had not completely transformed, and there were less than 10,000 sword intents that resonated with him, Tsing Hui could use his own sword intent as a guide. Coupled with the suppression of nearly 10,000 sword intents at the same time, the power was so vast that it easily shattered the sword intent that the Red Rock Sword Saint had erupted with. At the same time, the sword force that had yet to take form within the sword force carried with it vast and mighty power, viciously attacking the Red Rock Sword Saint's mind. When the Red Rock Sword Saint saw Tsing Hui, he felt like he was facing a monarch, a god. He could not help but tremble. At the moment when his sword intent was about to be crushed by Tsing Hui's sword force, he actually let out a blood-curdling scream as his entire body went limp. His face was filled with terror. Scarlet Rock Sword Saint. To the side, the Rainbow Sword Master glanced at the screaming Red Rock Sword Saint on the ground and asked curiously. The Red Rock Sword Saint naturally did not dare to say that he had been taught a lesson by Tsing Hui for playing tricks behind his back. He hurriedly climbed to his feet and said, "I'm fine. I just tried to condense the sword force not too long ago and failed. Now that I've tried to condense the sword force with Pak Hui, I've used up too much of my sword intent. I'm just exhausted. Sword Master, I need to go back and rest." "Hello, you can go back." The Rainbow Sword Master smiled and said, "It seems like Pak Hui is fully prepared. Condensing the sword force this time was not too dangerous." "Yes." The Red Rock Sword Saint replied. Feeling the gazes of the disciples, deacons, and elders around him, as well as the scene of him making a fool of himself in front of everyone, the Red Rock Sword Saint's heart burned with hatred. However, at this moment, he did not dare to show any of it. He could only suppress the hatred and cursing towards Tsing Hui in his heart, lowering his head and quickly leaving. Only after leaving the Frost Square did the Red Rock Sword Saint dare to raise his head slightly. He stared fixedly at Tsing Hui, who was condensing the sword force in the direction of the Frost Square. Red Rock will remember today's humiliation. Pak Hui, originally, I did not want to accept their invitation and join them, but now, you can't blame me. Rainbow Sword Saint, Bai Heng, don't blame me either. Allying with the Sunset Tianqiong Sword Sect and opposing them will not bring any benefits to our Rainbow Sword Sect. No matter how we resist, we will not be able to escape the fate of defeat or even destruction. I'm only doing this to leave a way out for our Rainbow Sword Sect, so that our Rainbow Sword Sect won't completely lose its inheritance. Thinking of this, he felt like he had to endure the humiliation for the sake of saving the Rainbow Sword Sect in the future. He resolutely split a portion of his consciousness into the Chaos Divine Hall, searching for the members of the Divine Path sect who had contacted him not long ago. On the Frost Square, Tsing Hui's sword intent was constantly transforming into sword force. When he planned on cultivating sword force, although Tsing Hui was not completely confident that he could completely transform his sword intent, he was still 70 to 80% confident. However, when he truly decided to condense sword force, he realized that things were going much smoother than he had imagined. The Rainbow Sword Sect can already be considered one of the strongest sword sects in the Divine Wilderness, but the sword intent condensed by these people is still far from being comparable to the sword spirit of the Myriad Swords Mountain in terms of purity. It's not pure enough, so the burden on my sword intent is naturally lower. Correspondingly, the sword force I condense in the end is weaker than I had imagined. Tsing Hui carefully sensed the sword force in his body. Although the sword force he condensed was weaker than he had imagined, it was at most 10 to 20% weaker. Compared to the time when he had sword intent, the sword force's power had not increased by much. Furthermore, due to the fact that the sword intent of the Rainbow Sword Sect's disciples, deacons, and elders were not pure, its power should have decreased by 10% or so. However, the advantage was in its range. Before condensing sword force, Tsing Hui's sword intent attack could only be condensed into a single point. The target of the attack was also extremely singular. It was just like when he was trapped in True God Suffering's domain. His opponent's domain was constantly surging in all directions, while he could only slash in one direction. Naturally, he was at a disadvantage. But now, as the sword intent transformed into sword force, the sword force was like a domain that enveloped his body. If the endless domain power wanted to threaten his body, it had to first destroy his sword force. However, the sword force's range was wide, so the opponent's domain power would naturally disperse. It could not be condensed, so the threat was naturally reduced by a lot. It's equivalent to turning a single attack into a group attack under the circumstances of the attack being reduced by 10%. The maximum range is 100 meters, 100 meters. Compared to a Saint Realm giant whose domain power could reach dozens of kilometers, a sword force with a range of only 100 meters was indeed much smaller. Within 100 meters, almost every sword force has 80 to 90% of the power when I erupt sword intent. That is to say, under my sword force, ordinary powerful figures have no power to resist at all. Their will be directly crushed by my sword force, and they will die on the spot. Even experts at law phenomenon and earth level will probably lose their ability to resist under the cover of my sword force. Moreover, as my understanding of sword force deepens, one day I will be able to shrink the range of sword force, which can only be used as a group attack, to 50 meters, 20 meters, or even 10 meters. At that time, its power will be many times stronger than the sword intent now. Tsing Hui was quite satisfied with the change and improvement of his sword force. With sword force by his side, he finally didn't have to face the domain energy of a Saint Realm expert that surged towards him from all directions like before. So long as he activated his sword force, the might of his sword force would naturally cancel out the might of the domain. Even though the power of the sword was not as endless as the power of the domain, Qing Su believed that with his battle prowess, he could definitely defeat or even kill his target before his sword was dispersed by the power of the domain. Activating sword intent for a long time was naturally a heavy burden for many disciples, deacons, and elders. As Tsing Hui's sword intent transformed into sword force, many disciples, deacons, and elders withdrew their sword intents one after another and began to meditate to regulate their breathing and recover their minds that had been exhausted by activating sword intent. Even Rainbow Sword Master, a giant in the Saint Realm, had a trace of exhaustion on his face. However, he immediately went up to Tsing Hui and asked with concern, "Pak Hui, how are you? I've completed the transformation of sword force, and its power has decreased by 10 to 20%. That's good." Rainbow Sword Master let out a sigh of relief. 10 to 20% is a normal reduction. It's just like how a domain realm expert's domain power can't increase his domain power by 5, 6, 7, or even 8 times compared to celestial phenomenon of earth or celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth. A saint realm expert will have his domain power reduced by 1 to 2 times based on his accumulation during the celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth. In other words, if his celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth increased his domain power by 5 times, then his domain power will be reduced by at least 2 times. If he forcefully breaks through to the saint realm due to his weaker celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth, his domain power will only increase his domain power by 3 times compared to when he was a powerful being. It decreased by that much? Tsing Hui was surprised. It looks like it's been reduced a lot, but that's not necessarily the case. Not only does it take time for lawful embodiment of heaven and earth experts to enter the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth state, there's also the biggest drawback, which is that it's difficult to move. Some almighty experts who are proficient in speed can even rely on their own speed to suppress lawful embodiment of heaven and earth experts, but divine realm experts don't have this problem. Under the coverage of the domain, even the lowest 3 times increase in strength can still easily defeat almighty experts. In addition, the amplification effect of lawful embodiment of heaven and earth experts is strictly limited to their attack range, but divine realm experts, within the domain, it's all amplification. Tsing Hui heard this and nodded. When celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth experts entered the celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth state, their attack power and defense power would increase exponentially. However, the celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth that they merged with usually operated slowly, so they couldn't move at high speed. Otherwise, if they left the domain of heaven and earth, the merged celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth would be disrupted and they would have to merge with it again. These celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth experts could only be used as cannon turrets. In a positional battle, they were extremely powerful and could even kill powerful beings who dared to go against them with one blow. However, once they engaged in a battle, they might not be much stronger than powerful beings. This was also the reason why many powerful beings weren't particularly afraid of the celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth. Since you've mastered the sword force, your strength will definitely increase by another level. This time, you can be considered an expert in the saint realm and you don't have to hide anymore. Therefore, we have to celebrate and announce your identity as the 4th Sword Master to the world. Sword Master Long Rainbow said with a smile. Tsing Hui pondered for a moment and didn't refuse this time. Now that he was standing at the peak of the divine wilderness, he didn't have to be as cautious as before. Chapter 641. Calmly Continent. Su Fei, the ruler of Heaven's Will Palace, was quickly walking through a mountain range. Even with the foundation left behind by Tsing Hui, he still couldn't step into the prominent divine stage. However, since most of the experts on Calmly Continent had been killed, he still had the power to dominate Calmly Continent. Not to mention, he still had the top divine weapons left behind by Tsing Hui and Heaven's Will Palace. As he walked in the mountain range, there were many guards accompanying him. The group of people moved hurriedly and quickly arrived at the location of a dust-repellent stone mine. At this moment, the location of the dust stone mine had been sealed by many experts of Heaven's Will Palace. If an outsider rashly entered this place, they would be captured immediately. Once their identity was suspected, they would be killed on the spot. When Su Fei arrived, the dark-skinned mine owner immediately led a series of higher-ups to greet him. They trembled as they knelt down and saluted, "Greetings, Palace Master. Is the news you've said true?" Su Fei said sternly. "It's absolutely true." The mine owner solemnly vowed, "In these 10 days, we have mined a total of 400 cubic meters of dust stone. Originally, we thought that the production of dust stone in this mine was just a special phenomenon and that it wouldn't be long before the production dropped. But as we dug deeper, not only did the production of dust stone continue to increase, the quality also became higher and higher. Right now, a third of the dust stone that we have excavated have reached the high grade. We have even excavated 3 cubic meters of absolute grade dust stone. 10 days, 400 cubic meters of dust stone. Including 3 cubic meters of absolute grade dust stone. This number immediately shocked Su Fei. Has anyone left the mine during this time? Don't worry, sir. No one has left during this time. Good. Su Fei quickly glanced around. The entire mine was surrounded by guards. Every one of them was an elite above the true Qi realm. The entire mine was impregnable. Take me to see it immediately. He waved his hand without hesitation and quickly followed the mine owner into the mine. He didn't even hesitate to personally enter the mine. Not long after entering the mine, there was a burst of exclamations as if someone was cheering below. What's going on? Su Fei shouted. The mine owner hurriedly sent someone to inquire. Not long after, that person came back with the news. With a face full of surprise, he said, "It's the dust-leaving stone, the peerless grade dust-leaving stone. Just now, close to 3 blocks of peerless grade dust-leaving stone were excavated." 3 parties again. Su Fei took a deep breath and led the people around him into the mine at an even faster speed. It didn't take long for them to reach the bottom of the mine. At this moment, there were still dozens of miners working here. When they saw the mine owner and the others arrive, they hurriedly knelt down and saluted. However, Su Fei didn't care about anything else. He glanced around the cave, and without the mine owner's detailed introduction, he could clearly see the dust-repelling stones embedded in the rock in all directions. Quick, Mr. Yufeng, let your team test the specific number of dust-cleansing stones contained in this mineral deposit. Su Fei was so excited that his body was trembling, but he still calmly ordered the group of people he had brought with him. "Palace Lord, please wait for a moment. We will calculate immediately." The man called Yufeng responded respectfully. Then, with an order, the dozen or so people who came with him quickly got to work. While Yufeng and the others were busy, Su Fei summoned a guard and said, "Immediately send a message to Vice Palace Lord Suing and ask her to personally lead the Blazing Sun Guards to guard this mine." "Yes, Palace Lord." The guard received the order and quickly left. Su Fei looked at the dust-cleansing stones in all directions in front of him and waited excitedly for the results of Yufeng and the others' calculations. Half a day passed in a flash. Yufeng, who had some results, trembled slightly and quickly came to Su Fei's side. His hands trembled as he said, "Palace Master, the amount of dust stone in this dust stone mine, I'm afraid it's much more than we estimated when we came." "Much? How much is it?" "Palace Lord, according to my preliminary estimation, the amount of dust-cleansing stones in this mine is not only high, but the quality is also shocking. According to preliminary estimation, the amount of low-grade dust-cleansing stones is around 200,000 cubic meters, high-grade dust-cleansing stones are no less than 30,000 cubic meters, and supreme-grade dust-cleansing stones should be 4,000 cubic meters. 4,000 supreme-grade dust-cleansing stones." Su Fei's eyes widened at the number. Supreme-grade dust-cleansing stones. Those were supreme-grade dust-cleansing stones. The price of supreme-grade dust-cleansing stones on the market was a shocking 1-to-1 ratio of Daoist rhymes. 4,000 supreme-grade dust-cleansing stones were equivalent to 4,000 Daoist rhymes, not to mention the 200,000 low-grade dust-cleansing stones and 30,000 high-grade dust-cleansing stones. In other words, the total market value of this mine was probably close to 10,000 Daoist rhymes. The number of 10,000 Daoist rhymes made Su Fei feel suffocated. "Are you serious? This number will only increase, not decrease. Yu Feng said confidently. Great. There will be a reward. Su Fei nodded. In the next moment, he ordered the guards without hesitation, immediately seal off this mine. I will personally oversee it. From now on, only people can enter and not leave this mine. Also, immediately send a message to Chiu Bai. Tell her to gather enough miners from the other mines and excavate all of these ores as quickly as possible. Yes. The guard responded and quickly did as he was told. Yu Feng, you guys immediately plan and design a plan. We have to mine all these dust-repelling stones as fast as possible. The faster the better. After the matter is done, your team will be heavily rewarded. Whether it's cultivation resources, wealth, status, or heaven and earth spirit objects that can prolong life, my palace will not be stingy. Su Fei seemed to be very courageous at this time. Thank you, sir. We will discuss a plan that will satisfy you. How long will it take to dig out all the dust-cleansing stones? If it's just to dig out the main body of the dust-cleansing stone mine, 1 or 2 months will be enough. If we want to dig out all the dust-cleansing stones inside, based on the mine we have detected so far, it will take at least a year. Then let's dig out the main body of the mine as much as possible. Okay. Su Fei nodded heavily, such a huge dust-cleansing stone mine. After I dig out the main part of the dust-cleansing stone, I will report to Master Dong Yang. I will definitely be heavily rewarded by Master Dong Yang. Thinking about this, he once again gave instructions to Yu Feng and the mine owner, and then hurried out of the mine. Not long after Su Fei left, a member of Yu Feng's team suddenly came forward and said to Yu Feng in a low voice, Sir, that kid Dan Mu is gone. Missing. Yu Feng's expression changed when he heard this. How could he be missing? That kid said he was going to relieve himself, but he left in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. When we went to look for him, we couldn't see him. Damn it, how is that possible? I personally brought that kid in, there shouldn't be a problem. At this critical moment, Yu Feng was about to say something. But immediately, another person quickly came forward and said with a panicked expression, Sir, we found Dan Mu, but Dan Mu has been killed. What? Yu Feng's face paled, and in the next moment, he seemed to have thought of something and quickly rushed out, quickly report this to the palace master. Yes. The team members responded and immediately rushed out of the mine. However, at this moment, a rumble suddenly rang out from above. Afterwards, the ground caved in, and a large number of rocks fell down from above. Before long, the entire cave had completely collapsed, burying Yu Feng's group. What's going on? What's going on? Su Fei, who rushed out of the mine, felt the rumbling sound coming from below, and his expression immediately became very ugly. Palace Master, there might be a collapse below. Beside him, the dark-skinned mine owner had a panicked expression. A collapse at this critical moment. We dug this mine too deep, so naturally, we can't guarantee the stability of the structure, so, I don't want to hear so many excuses. Immediately dredge the mine and dig out all the dust-cleansing stones inside. Tell me when to prepare. Su Fei said with a cold expression. The mine owner immediately summoned people and sent a suicide squad to investigate the extent of the collapse. After a while, he said, Sir, the structure below has completely collapsed. I'm afraid it'll take a month to dredge up the mine and start digging again. A month? I'll find a way to satisfy you with manpower and material resources. I'll give you 20 days. After 20 days, I want to see an endless stream of dust-cleansing stones being transported out. Yes, Tianhuang Continent, Rainbow Sword Sect. Xing Hui carefully sensed the changes in sword intent and sword force. Once the sword force was cultivated, it meant that from now on, he would not have to fear the endless attacks of Saint Realm experts. Although the sword force was slightly weaker than a true domain, it completely made up for the weakness of the ultimate sword Dao's lack of group attacks. It's about time, Qing Su murmured to himself, even though I've yet to spar with any other supreme expert, I'm at the same level as Sword Master Bai Heng at the very least through the transformation of my sword force and my advantage over my domain power. As a matter of fact, if she's not hiding any ultimate moves, I should be able to gain the upper hand slightly. Such strength, not to mention anything else, it would be easy for him to charge into the Black Flame sect and kill his way through. The Hatred Heaven domain has almost recovered after this period of time. Apart from the teleportation skill, true God's suffering won't be able to escape from the enemy. Tsing Hui stood up and walked out of the cultivation room. Sword Venerable Hidden Sword had yet to wake up. He could no longer sit by and watch. Even if he might not be able to capture true God's suffering alive, he had to make a trip there. Thinking of this, Tsing Hui said goodbye to Sword Master Long Rainbow and left Rainbow Sword Sect. He headed toward the Black Flame sect. In less than half a day, the mountain gate of the Black Flame sect appeared in front of Tsing Hui. True God's suffering, this time, I'd like to see if the Black Flame sect can still protect you. Chapter 642. Qing Su shot through the air and entered the Black Flame sect very soon. After being attacked by Tsing Hui the last time, the Black Flame Church was much more alert than before. However, they were helpless against Tsing Hui's sneak in after hiding his aura. Unless the God Protection Formation was activated at full power, it would not be able to stop Tsing Hui. The Mountain Protection Formation was usually the most powerful formation in a sect. It covered a wide area and was very powerful. The amount of spiritual crystals required to activate it at full power was astronomical. Even a top sect in the infinite region like the Black Flame Church could not hold on for long. It was unrealistic to keep it activated all the time. Swoosh! Tsing Hui entered the Black Flame Church very quickly. As he used the aura-gazing skill to scan the mountain where true God's suffering was in seclusion, he was stunned. True God's suffering. He's not in seclusion anymore. That's right. It's been so long. The origin energy of his territory that he burned should have recovered by now. Tsing Hui looked around again. Soon, he fixed his gaze on a lofty mountain. Over there, true God's suffering's aura was like a pillar of air that shot up into the sky. It was connected with the mountain protection formation of the Black Flame Church. Very good. Qing Su shot through the air and appeared on the mountain where the true God of suffering resided in an instant. At this moment, the true God of suffering was teaching his believers, explaining some sort of doctrine to them with a look of compassion. Below him, there were many law emperors at the true energy boundary, the transformative boundary, the endless boundary, the golden core boundary, and even those at the law emperor level who had cultivated a divine ability. They listened with pious expressions, all of them looking at the true God of suffering with fervent gazes. Looking at the believers who were worshipping him like a god, true God's suffering smiled and was about to continue. However, at that moment, he seemed to have sensed something and his heart skipped a beat. In the next moment, a blazing destructive sword intent erupted from less than 100 meters in front of him. It was like a blazing sun that soared into the sky. The energy that radiated from the blazing sun caused the Saint Stage expert, who had been talking and laughing a second ago, to suddenly widen his eyes. His eyes were filled with uncontrollable rage and hatred. This method. It's that little bastard of yours, as he roared out, true God Tribulation charged forward valiantly. He had no intention of backing away at all. His domain power erupted violently, receiving Qing Su's sword of sunlight. The domain power and the scorching sword light immediately clashed head-on. Today, you can't escape. True God suffering roared and his tone was filled with murderous intent. However, the murderous intent and anger were frozen the moment his territory power collided with Tsing Hui's sword of the sun. A vast sword momentum was like a territory that had yet to be formed. It crushed the power of the territory that real God of suffering had unleashed into pieces. Before the power of the territory could do any damage to the sword of the sun, it was dispersed and annihilated. Taking advantage of the opportunity, the sword light of the Sword of the Sun was like a meteor that streaked across the sky. It carried an unstoppable force and hit real God of Suffering's protective aura. Even though he tried his best to unleash the power of the territory, he couldn't do anything about it. He had no choice but to use the holy statue of Emperor Yan, which had reached rank 15, to block the Sword of the Sun's edge when the power of the Sword of the Sun was unleashed. Sword momentum. He managed to cultivate sword momentum. And, the power of this sword momentum can barely fight against the territory power. True God Suffering's expression changed. Just as his expression changed, the swords of the sun rose again and turned into an exploding sun. They swept out boundless brilliance and slashed at True God Suffering again. Slash. 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 Chasing light. The greatest advantage of the supreme superpower chasing light was its speed. The stronger the sword essence, the faster the attack speed. When he had fought with True God Suffering, Tsing-Hui hadn't used the rainbow legendary sword essence to sharpen his sword essence. Secondly, he hadn't cultivated Six Desires mind training skill to strengthen his godly soul. Thirdly, he hadn't merged Ash's secret skill and Stab's secret skill into one. Although chasing light was powerful, there was a limit to its power. At least True God Suffering could barely keep up with Tsing-Hui's attack speed. However, now, 142 levels of spiritual power. The power of the light-chasing divine ability had more than doubled now that the sword intent of the Ash and godly stabbing divine abilities had been infused into the two. Almost at the same time when True God Suffering blocked Tsing-Hui's first Sword of the Sun with the help of Emperor Yan's holy statue, the second, third, and fourth sword came down like a storm. The three sword lights overlapped. In the eyes of some golden elixir realm and almighties, it looked like one sword. However, the power that was unleashed increased exponentially. Rumble. As the energy fluctuation that shook heaven and earth swept out, True God Suffering's holy statue of Emperor Yan didn't have time to fight back. The second and third sword broke the holy statue of Emperor Yan into pieces. Then, the fourth sword landed on True God Suffering's body. Even though True God Suffering had a strong protective shield, he was still sent flying by the power of the sword. He spat out blood and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Rumble. The battle between Tsing-Hui and True God Suffering broke out. The energy fluctuation that swept out instantly alarmed the other two Holy Realm giants in Black Flame sect. Real God One and Real God Savior's power swept out immediately. This sword principle. Thief, it's you. How dare you? Bastard, you dare to invade Black Flame sect again and again. You really don't take Black Flame sect seriously. Since you're here today, don't think about leaving alive. Purification sect master, don't bother about the stability of the formation. Use all your strength to activate Great Formation of God Blessing. Activate Great Formation of God Blessing first. The two Holy Realm giants, Real God One and Real God Savior roared angrily at the same time. The power of realm swept out and spread toward Tsing-Hui. Bind. Tsing-Hui didn't even look at the two Holy Realm giants' realm that swept out. He cast Hatred Heaven Realm and turned it into a prison to trap the three real gods. At the same time, he separated the space. Real God Savior and Real God One were separated and trapped in one space while Real God Suffering and Tsing-Hui were separated into another space. At the same time, the Scarlet Abyss sword in his hand let out a dazzling light again. The power of the fusion of the scorching sun flowed madly in the Scarlet Abyss sword and swept out under the guidance of his will. It turned into a new sword of the scorching sun and slashed at Real God Suffering. Sun Glory. Ah! 10 Worlds Division. Real God Suffering roared angrily and the aura of divine skill swept out from his body. At the same time, he cast a powerful secret skill. It seemed to split the void in front of him into many spaces and continuously engulfed the power of the Sword of Sun Glory. Divine Skill. I have it too. Tsing Hui's eyes shone and the aura of divine skill surged out from his body. Even though he was only an almighty, he still felt a vast amount of energy flowing into his body after being raised by 2 realms. In particular, his compatibility with the power of law had reached a level that he had never reached before. As such, the sword light that he slashed out seemed to have broken through some kind of restriction and directly shattered vacuum. The power of the sword of sun glory continued to spread and slash out. At the sharpest part of the deep red sword, there were pitch-black cracks. Those were the spatial cracks that were formed after the space was torn apart. Qing Su's current strength was obviously not at the level where he could shatter space. Even though he practiced the extreme way of the sword that specialized in attacks and used a level 8 divine technique, it was still insufficient for him to create spatial cracks. However, Qing Su had once added a void fragmentation divine rock into the Scarlet Abyss sword when he forged it. The void-shattering stones granted the Dragon Abyss sword the ability to shatter. When it clashed with other weapons, it could allow the Dragon Abyss sword to rip through the defenses of powerful weapons and armors even more easily, or even destroy the enemy's weapons. Once Qing Su's sword techniques reached a certain level, it could help Qing Su achieve the same ability that was close to shattering space. In front of such a ferocious power that could shatter vacuum, how could real God Suffering's 10 Worlds division technique withstand it? Almost in an instant, the space that he had separated with the 10 Realms division technique had been torn into pieces by the power of the vacuum shattering technique. Then, the second sword of sunlight almost did not stop at all, not giving the suffering true God any time to breathe. Rumble. The blazing, furious power exploded on real God Suffering's body with the force of a thunderbolt. The power of annihilation crushed real God Suffering's protective shield into powder on the spot. The impact that didn't diminish in power tore real God Suffering's body apart and almost tore him into pieces. Your sword principle. How could it be so strong? Real God Suffering roared and his eyes were filled with terror. At the same time, he was extremely decisive. The power of domain origin that he had recovered not long ago burned again and a surging domain power swept out from his body. The second before his body was torn to pieces by the explosion of the Sword of Sun Glory, he resisted the destructive power of the Sword of Sun Glory. Is it useful? Tsing Hui's light-chasing divine skill was activated to the extreme. At the same time when the first Sword of Sun Glory was dispersed by real God Suffering's burning power of domain origin, a new sword slashed down again. In an instant, it tore apart the domain power that was formed by burning the power of domain origin. Then, the third sword followed closely. It was as if the two of them were not on the same attack frequency. Every single time the true God of Suffering counterattacked, every single movement would basically be met with 2, 3, or even 4 strikes of the Green Ruins sword at times. At this moment, there was only one thing that Qing Su could do. Slash. 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 Violent. Blazing. Fierce. Domineering. Such an attack was indescribable. Even if the power wasn't satisfactory, such a frequency could still make one collapse quickly. Moreover, the power of the Sword of Sun Glory was definitely not weak. Explode! Tsing Hui roared. Real God Only and Real God Savior were trapped in Hatred Heaven domain, so they couldn't rescue them for the time being. His Sword of Sun Glory slashed down madly. Even though real God Suffering burned the power of domain origin, it was of no use. Then, Tsing Hui's second, third, and fourth sword slashed down. The power of domain origin that was formed by burning was torn apart by him fiercely and violently. The blazing torrent that spread out swept across and the oppression that it brought made real God Suffering suffocate. How could he be so fast? How could he be so strong? Real God Suffering's eyes no longer had the anger that he had when he saw Tsing Hui. Instead, they were filled with endless fear. However, he couldn't stop Tsing Hui's attack at all. Stabbing God. Along with Tsing Hui's new slash, the sword momentum that was contained in the Scarlet Abyss sword blasted into real God Suffering's mind. The moment he suffered a huge mental blow, his mind was turned upside down. Just as his mind was about to collapse, Tsing Hui formed a sword with his left hand and tapped the space between real God Suffering's eyebrows. Bang! The vibrating power knocked out the Holy Land giant on the spot. Then, Tsing Hui rolled up his personal space. Real God Suffering was captured alive. Chapter 643. This Suffering True God was defeated and captured. The one true God and the world savior true God were stunned when they saw the suffering true God being defeated and captured. They were stunned. True God Suffering, a supreme giant of the divine stage, was defeated just like that. Furthermore, he did not even have the chance to escape and was captured alive. Even with the restraints of the Lihan Heaven Realm, a divine sage should not be so weak. The Lihan Heaven Realm was a level 16 treasure. If it was in the hands of the Lihan Holy Man, it would not be difficult to trap a divine sage for a few breaths of time. If the Lihan Holy Man melted the Lihan Heaven Realm into his own territory, he could even trap a divine sage for a long time and make it difficult for him to move. However, due to the fact that Qing Su was not the master of the grief-parting heaven world, coupled with the fact that his cultivation was limited, the sainthood experts like the one true God and the true God of salvation had defeated the grief-parting heaven world in just 3 seconds. Now, they had even taken the time to assist the true God of suffering. Unfortunately, in just 3 breaths of time, the suffering true God was severely injured and captured by Tsing Hui. He kept him in his personal space and sealed the victory of the Black Flame sect. How did the Lihan Holy Man's Lihan Heaven Realm end up in his hands? Is the heavenly axiom going to attack the Black Flame sect? This matter should have nothing to do with the Lihan Holy Man. I heard that the Lihan Holy Man seemed to have lost his Lihan Heaven Realm and the Lihan Holy Man used a teleportation spell in the battle to kill the Zhu Zhao Master. He has been lost in the void and has not returned yet. The world savior true God looked at Tsing Hui and his expression was solemn. No matter what, we have to save the suffering true God. Otherwise, the foundation of the Black Flame sect will be shaken. The one true God nodded. The great formation of heavenly blessing has been activated. At this time, we can only rely on the power of the great formation of heavenly blessing to turn the situation around. Humph, he killed his way to the mountain of the Black Flame sect and captured one of our true gods. Does he think he's a supreme divine expert? As soon as he finished speaking, the one true God and world savior real God's bodies glowed with radiance. Their territory power spread out continuously and resonated with the God protection formation that enveloped the Black Flame sect. In an instant, their territory power increased by a few times and almost covered the entire Black Flame sect's base. The majestic territory power was like a tsunami that swept out violently and headed straight for where Tsing Hui was. Since the Black Flame sect had been slaughtered by Tsing Hui the last time, the entire Black Flame sect had learned their lesson. Although the divine blessing formation had not been activated all the time, it had been operating at its peak under the condition of saving energy. That was why it could be fully activated in just 3 breaths of time. Its explosive power had shrouded the entire Black Flame sect. Rumor has it that only the ultimate experts can come and go freely in the protective mountain formation of the top sections. Someone like esteemed Zhu Zhao, who stands at the forefront of the ultimate experts, can even break through the mountain gate of a top sect like the Divine Ghost sect by himself. Today, I want to see how much of a difference there is between me and the ultimate experts. Looking at the majestic territory power that spread out above his head, Tsing Hui was filled with fighting spirit. His majestic sword aura soared into the sky and swept out an indomitable sharp radiance. It then crashed into the sea of territory power of the 2 true gods of the Black Flame sect. Then, the sword of the sun exploded and boundless radiance and flames filled the void completely again. How dare you go against the mountain protecting formation of the Black Flame sect head-on? You're courting death. Real God Savior roared angrily, and the territory power pressed down. In the territory, a brilliant holy light that carried the power to purify everything shone down. The holy light could disintegrate almost all energy and matter. Even though Tsing Hui had killed the Sword of the Sun, it was no exception. Under the purifying holy light of real God Savior, the destructive power of the Sword of the Sun weakened at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. In less than a breath's time, it had dissipated completely. It did not even manage to hit real God Savior's territory and did not have any substantial effect on real God Savior. That's all. When the only real God saw this, a faint smile appeared on his face. However, before his smile could spread, the true God of Salvation's territory once again exploded with a blazing radiance. This radiance directly tore apart the true God of Salvation's world-purifying holy light divine ability and blasted onto the true God of Salvation's territory power with a thunderous force. Although it did not tear apart the true God of Salvation's territory power, in the next second, the third Sword of the Sun followed closely behind and completely exploded within the true God of Salvation's territory power. The mighty, blazing power was like a shocking nuclear bomb that had exploded underground. Real God Savior's territory power first rose high. Then, rings of shock waves spread out from the area that was hit by the Sword of the Sun. Almost half of the territory power within a radius of a few thousand meters that was hit by the Sword of the Sun was annihilated. If real God Savior had not drawn out a vast power from the God-protecting formation and poured it into his territory at the crucial moment, his territory power would have been torn apart by the sword light. How can such a terrifying divine ability attack be so fast? This doesn't make sense. Real God Savior felt the tremors in his territory and was shocked. With the support of the God-protecting formation, his territory power had increased by several times. However, it was still almost torn apart by Tsing Hui's swordsmanship. If his territory power had not been supported by the mountain protection formation, then now, thinking of this, real God Savior felt a chill in his heart. He quickly shouted, "Only real God, attack with all your might. Combine our territory power and kill him." The only true God was knowledgeable, so he obviously understood how terrifying Qing Su was. He immediately nodded heavily, and the power of his domain surged out. A swathe of black flames appeared in his domain. The flames were filled with the sense of redemption and transcendence. Combined with the power of the domain of the true God of Salvation, they directly pressed towards Qing Su. For a moment, the territory power was turbulent and mighty. Tsing Hui, who was in the middle of the territory power and supported by his sword essence, was like a mortal facing the wrath of heaven and earth. He looked so small, as if he would be crushed into dust by the thunder power that descended from the void in the next moment. Mountain Protection Formation, this is the power of the Mountain Protection Formation. Tsing Hui glanced at the Mountain Protection Formation of the Black Flame sect. The God-protecting formation of the Black Flame sect not only contained a large amount of accumulated mystical energy, but it also used the mystical energy to merge with the mountain range where the Black Flame sect was located. This caused the vitality of the earth within a radius of 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers to be covered by the God-protecting formation. On top of that, every divine realm existence had touched the rules of heaven and earth and could even use the territory power to manifest the rules of heaven and earth. As such, instead of saying that Tsing Hui was fighting against true God Savior and only real God, it was more like he was fighting against heaven and earth within a radius of 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers. He was fighting against the vitality of the earth within a radius of 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers, challenging the power of the rules of heaven and earth. Rules? I don't know what the rules of heaven and earth are, but, to a cultivator of the ultimate sword principle, there's no need to consider it. Rules of heaven and earth? It's just that my sword isn't strong enough. As long as I continue to burn and activate the sword intent, the so-called heaven and earth, the so-called rules of heaven and earth, will all be turned into dust under my sword. Tsing Hui looked at the territory power that was surging and condensing the energy within a radius of 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers above his head. It was as if his sword intent was burning in his spiritual world. The boiling sword intent transformed into a sword momentum that soared into the sky. It even transformed into a huge sharp sword shadow, causing the treasured swords in the hands of all the Black Flame sect sword wielders within a radius of several hundred kilometers to hum loudly. Under the amplification of this sword momentum, Xing Hui's light-chasing divine ability that was already extremely fast seemed to have broken a new shackle. In an instant, the speed of 3 slashes increased to 4 slashes. The moment he unsheathed his sword, the 4 sunburst swords seemed to stack into one and exploded in true God Savior's territory at the same time. The first slash shattered true God Savior's world-purifying holy light divine ability. The second slash slashed true God Savior's territory. The third slash tore true God Savior's territory apart. The fourth slash directly slashed true God Savior's true body. The vast and mighty blazing energy pressed down, sweeping up a terrifying suffocating heat. Under the spread of the heat, even true God Savior, a supreme giant in the divine realm, felt the fear of being annihilated. He can actually tear my territory apart. My territory power has been amplified by the divine blessing great formation. Its power has more than doubled. He can actually tear my territory apart. The true God of salvation's eyes were filled with disbelief. However, the scorching and violent sword chi that was pressing towards him had already frightened him so much that he had no choice but to switch from offense to defense. He activated his defensive armor that was at the 13th level. Rumble. The sunburst swords exploded on true God Savior's defensive armor. For a moment, the air billowed. A terrifying shockwave that was enough to destroy all living things within a radius of several dozen kilometers swept out in all directions crazily. It was then crushed into powder by the territory power that rolled over. Damn it! True God Savior roared furiously. At the same time, he clenched his fist. The seemingly endless energy in the divine blessing great formation was once again mobilized by him and swept toward Xing Hui. Meanwhile, true God Savior took advantage of this crucial moment to fly back. True God One, why aren't you stopping him? True God Savior, who was flying back, roared furiously. True God One's expression was piercingly cold. The territory power crazily spread toward Xing Hui, and within it, divine powers were surging. Xing Hui's eyes flashed. In addition to giving him astonishing attack speed, the light-chasing divine power also gave him unparalleled flying speed. Although he was currently in true God Savior's territory, true God Savior's territory was almost destroyed by him. In the face of true God One's attack, his figure did not change. He merely slashed his sword twice consecutively behind him and destroyed true God One's territory power that was sweeping toward him. Then, his figure turned again and pointed at true God Savior. Dazzling sword light bloomed, sunburst. Rumble. The territory power that true God Savior had painstakingly swept out from the divine blessing great formation collapsed once again. Damn it! The world Savior true God roared angrily. He communicated with the great formation of divine blessing in his spiritual world again. He tried to guide the energy out of the great formation of divine blessing into his territory. However, after he communicated with the great formation of divine blessing, the energy that was guided out of the formation was so weak that it was negligible. He was stunned by what he saw. The energy of the divine blessing great formation, gone. In other words, there was an imbalance between the consumption and supply. He had depleted the energy of the divine blessing great formation too quickly. As a result, the divine blessing great formation could no longer mobilize enough energy within a radius of 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers in such a short period of time to replenish the great formation for him to squander. Chapter 644. This, as real God Savior couldn't get any support, he was dumbfounded. Fortunately, he was a divine stage giant who had gone through hundreds of battles. In a split second, he regained his senses and gave an order. Sound waves spread in all directions and engulfed the entire Black Flame sect. Everyone, enter the Divine Blessing Great Array and cooperate with the Black Flame sect's Mountain Protection Great Array to kill the invading enemy. When Tsing Hui was fighting with Real God Suffering, Real God Savior, and Real God Only, many of the Black Flame sect's followers, elders, and priests had already soared into the sky and looked at where Tsing Hui was. Real God Suffering had been defeated in an instant and all of them were shocked. However, considering that Real God Suffering might have been ambushed by the enemy, he couldn't react in time. Hence, they weren't tempted. When they saw Real God Savior and Real God Only activating the sect's Mountain Protection Formation, they thought they would win. However, Real God Savior and Real God Only couldn't do anything to the enemy with the power of the Mountain Protection Formation. They were shocked. Hearing Real God Savior's order, everyone shivered and returned to the formation quickly. They poured their power into the formation. In an instant, the power of the formation that was almost depleted by Real God Savior was replenished. God Blessing Formation. Tsing Hui looked at the continuous formation in front of him and felt the God Blessing Formation drawing power from 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers. His eyes were beaming. I don't believe that your Mountain Protection Formation can't be broken. Tsing Hui bellowed and the scarlet sword in his hand let out an unprecedented radiance. Slash! 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 As his understanding of the Sword of the Sun deepened, in addition to the increase in his spirit level and the transformation of sword intention into sword momentum, the Sword of the Sun that he could perform was no longer limited to the previous 20 or 30 swords. Instead, he could perform dozens of swords, close to 100 swords. At that moment, the sword light formed by the Sword of Sunlight was like the most violent thunder. It crazily bombarded the territory power formed by World Savior True God and Only True God. The bright, blazing light kept exploding in the sky above the Black Flame sect. Then, it was suppressed by World Savior True God and Only True God. At that moment, the two sides were in a stalemate. This child actually forcefully resisted the power of our Black Flame sect's Mountain Protection Formation. The one true God's eyes widened in shock as he looked at the Sword of Sunlight that was unleashed in a frenzy. Protective Mountain Array. In actual fact, our Black Flame sect's Mountain Protection Formation should have already been destroyed earlier. He is now forcefully resisting the strength of our entire Black Flame sect. The Savior True God continuously mobilized the power of the God Protection Formation to suppress Tsing Hui, but his face gradually turned pale. Omnipotent. A supreme expert. This was the battle prowess of an omnipotent. When did a new supreme expert appear in the heaven wasteland world? As for our Black Flame sect, why would we offend an ultimate expert? The Savior True God's voice trembled slightly. The one true God's face was also gloomy. The suffering true God. This ultimate expert is clearly here for the suffering true God, damn it. It was one thing to activate the Mountain Protection Formation, but it was another thing to have the Mountain Protection Formation activated by all the experts of the sect. Ultimate experts could kill their way into the mountain gates of some of the top sections. Even if the top sects activated the Mountain Protection Formation, they could still successfully kill their way out. The Mountain Protection Formation in this standard usually did not include the Mountain Protection Formation activated by all the experts of the Golden Core Realm, almighty beings, and divine great leaders of the sect. For example, the current situation where all the experts of the Golden Core Realm and almighty beings of the Black Flame sect had entered the Mountain Protection Formation and activated the Mountain Protection Formation with all their might, but they were still unable to take down their opponent was something that had only happened to the Chaos Holy Man, the Tai Yi Emperor, and Supreme God Huanggu, who had cultivated to the insightful Emptiness Realm. Even when esteemed Zhu Zhao was at his peak, he could only choose to temporarily avoid the attack or plan slowly when faced with the power of an entire sect. It was similar to Tsing Hui's head-on confrontation, absolutely unique. Pfft. Just as Tsing Hui slashed out 50 to 60 sunburst swords in the God Blessing Formation, the weakest elders of the Golden Core realm in the God-blessing formation finally could not hold on any longer and spat out blood. The power of the God-blessing formation was evenly distributed to the elders and almighty beings who had entered the formation. Instantly, the elders with the weakest cultivation were greatly injured and their faces turned pale. With the first, there would naturally be a second rumble. Following the second round of continuous explosions, more than 10 elders of the Golden Core realm spat out blood at the same time. Their entire bodies went limp and their faces were extremely pale. They had lost the ability to maintain the operation of the God-blessing formation. Seeing this scene, the world savior true God and the one true God's faces turned pale. No, we can't let this continue. Otherwise, the elders of the Black Flame sect will definitely be killed by the power that he continuously slashes out. He is burning the origin of the domain. The one true God said. As for the divine skill, when the suffering true God was in danger earlier, they had already used it in order to tear the hatred heaven world apart as soon as possible. We can only burn the origin of the domain. Now, all the elders of the Golden Core realm are already at their limits. If this continues, even if the Black Flame sect manages to defeat him in the end, we will definitely be greatly injured. True God Savior's eyes flashed with a hint of determination. However, just as they were about to burn the origin of the domain, Tsing Hui, who had slashed out 50 to 60 sunburst swords in one go, suddenly paused. In the next moment, he turned around and waved his sword. He instantly tore the power of the domain in front of him apart. Taking advantage of the opportunity, he became one with his sword and instantly shot out of the gap of the domain like flowing light. He's running away. The world savior true God, who looked determined, was stunned. He can't hold on any longer. Should we go after him? The one true God looked at Tsing Hui, who was quickly breaking out of the encirclement, and he was slightly hesitant. Logically speaking, their enemy was already an arrow at the end of its flight. They should quickly go after him. However, when he thought of the destructive scene where Tsing Hui had slashed out 50 to 60 sunburst swords in a frenzy, he felt a chill in his heart that went straight to the bottom of his heart. Even with the great divine blessing formation, they could barely hold on to their opponent. Once their opponent rushed out of the Black Flame sect, without the support of the great divine blessing formation, how could the two of them fight against him? We still have to go after him. However, the world savior true God and the one true God looked at each other and instantly understood each other's plan. Of course, they had to go after him. Otherwise, the morale of the Black Flame sect would definitely plummet. However, they could not really go after him. It was enough for them to go after him out of the Black Flame sect. Otherwise, what awaited them would definitely be life-threatening. After understanding each other's plan, the two divine state giants did not even dare to say anything harsh to Tsing Hui. They only shouted at the Church Master of Purification and the other Guardian Kings, "Activate the Great Formation, activate the Great Formation. Trap him in the Great Formation. Don't let him escape. The Black Flame sect will not be humiliated like this." The two divine state experts roared angrily. Their territories swept out as they quickly gave chase. However, how could they be faster than Tsing Hui? With a loud boom, the sunburst swords that Tsing Hui had slashed out landed heavily on the Great Divine Blessing Formation's gigantic light screen. Moreover, he had not slashed out once. He had slashed out 4 times. However, the speed of the slashes was so fast that no one could see them clearly. They only thought that it was just one slash. Out of the 4 sunburst swords, the first slash created an explosive force that caused the dozens of golden elixir experts who were in charge of maintaining the Great Divine Blessing Formation to spit out blood at the same time. The second slash caused more than 10 golden elixir experts to explode on the spot. They were turned into a bloody mist by the shockwave from the Great Divine Blessing Formation. The third slash caused the 3 Guardian Kings to spit out blood at the same time. They hurriedly disconnected themselves from the Great Divine Blessing Formation. As for the 4th slash, it was as if an extremely sharp blade was used to cut through tofu. It easily tore apart the great divine blessing formation's light screen. The dissipating force even bombarded the mountain peaks and courtyards that were enveloped by the great divine blessing formation. The courtyards, lofts, and palaces within a radius of more than 10 kilometers were turned into dust. Thousands of Black Flame sect disciples and deacons died on the spot from the destructive shockwave formed by the slash. After tearing apart the great divine blessing formation of the Black Flame sect, Tsing Hui did not continue to cause trouble. He turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. He was so fast that even the two divine state giants, True God Savior and the One True God, had to concentrate to see his trajectory clearly. Damn it, True God Savior looked at Tsing Hui who had disappeared into the horizon. It was hard to tell if his expression was one of anger or relief. The last time this person came to our Black Flame sect, although his fighting power was shocking and his cultivation was impressive, but he wasn't that powerful, right? At that time, although he could fight against us for a short period of time, at most, he was only at the second level of the ordinary divine state giants. Let's not talk about being on par with the 10 greatest experts, he was not even on par with the ancient divine beings at the third level. How did his cultivation increase so much in less than a year? The One True God was in disbelief. I can feel it. The last time he came, he used sword consciousness. This time, he used sword force. His power has made a huge breakthrough. Moreover, when his sword consciousness transformed into sword force, his power didn't decrease by much. It's simply, when his sword consciousness transformed into sword force, his power didn't decrease. The One True God was shocked. When the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth broke through to the territory realm, the increase in power would decrease from 5 times to 4 times or even 3 times. In other words, it would decrease by at least 20%, 30%, or even 40%. If the territory that was formed by the combination of sword force, rules, and innate godly charm was like this, what more sword force? When did our Black Flame sect offend such a powerful divine state expert? Moreover, when did the infinite wasteland domain give birth to such a terrifying divine state expert? The One True God's eyes were filled with fear. Divine state expert. The world savior True God looked in the direction that Tsing Hui had left and said, "Can't you see that this kid is not a divine state expert? Powerful divine state expert." The One True God instantly understood something and said, "Supreme divine state expert. Supreme divine state expert." The world savior True God nodded heavily and said, "If I'm not wrong, this new divine state expert should be related to the 4th sword master of the Rainbow Sword sect. Perhaps, he is the 4th sword master of the Rainbow Sword sect." The Rainbow Sword sect. The One True God felt a chill in his heart and said, "The Rainbow Sword sect has Sword Master Baihang, who is known as the most powerful expert of the younger generation. Now, they have cultivated a divine state expert who has mastered Supreme Divine State Expert. Are they trying to defy the heavens? Inform the Divine Path sect of this news immediately and let them pass on the message to the Heavenly Tao. I don't believe that the Divine Path sect and the Heavenly Tao will be able to sit still when they know that a divine state expert who has mastered Supreme Divine State Expert has appeared in the Rainbow Sword sect." Chapter 645. The defensive formation of a top sect is indeed extraordinary. In the air above a mountain more than 10,000 kilometers away from the Black Flame sect, Tsing Hui slowly lowered his flying speed and landed. However, I did not clash head-on with the defensive formation of the Black Flame sect because I could not do anything to the Black Flame sect, but because I wanted to test my limits. If I am not wrong, when I slashed out 50 to 60 sunburst swords, the defensive formation of the Black Flame sect was almost at its limit. If I can slash out another 10 times, half of the Golden Core Elders in the Divine Protection formation will die. If I slash out 20 times, all of the Golden Core Elders will die. If I slash out 30 times, some of the Dharmaraja-level experts will die. In other words, if I slash out 100 sunburst swords, even if the divine protection formation has many golden core elders and Dharmarajas in it and is operating at full power, it will still be destroyed by me. Xing Hui landed. He now had an accurate grasp of his own strength. The burden of the sunburst swords on himself and the deep scarlet sword was much lower than before. The deep scarlet sword should be able to withstand 120 sunburst swords, and his body should be able to withstand 80 sunburst swords. In other words, if he used the backtracking technique, it would not be difficult to destroy the defensive formation of the Divine Ghost sect, the Black Flame sect, and the other sections. However, after destroying their defensive formation, he still had to deal with the divine experts of these sections. As the sword will had transformed into sword force, the power of the sunburst swords had weakened. In order to kill a divine expert who could activate the divine technique and burn his domain origin at the brink of death, under normal circumstances, it would probably take more than 10 sunburst swords. If the opponent had a high-grade defensive artifact, it might reach 20 sunburst swords. Whether it was the Black Flame sect or the Divine Ghost sect, they both had 3 divine experts. In this way, if he wanted to destroy a sect with 3 divine experts by himself, he was still slightly lacking. According to this calculation, my battle strength is enough to be ranked among the top 10 experts, and my final ranking should be around the 6th to 8th. Xing Hui carefully estimated and finally had a detailed understanding of his combat strength. It must be known that his battle prowess was still slightly inferior to the 3rd stage of the divine before he had mastered the sword force. Now that he had mastered the sword force, he immediately surpassed the 3rd stage and reached the level of the 10 supreme experts. In fact, he was not even at the bottom of the 10 supreme experts. This kind of improvement was very satisfying for him. As long as the Chaos Holy Man, the Tai Emperor, and the Primordial Chaos Holy Man have not broken through to the vacuum-shattering realm, no one in the divine wilderness can pose a fatal threat to me. Xing Hui heaved a sigh of relief. After wasting so much time on the path of cultivation, it was only at this moment that he could say that he truly stood at the peak of the divine wilderness world and had the qualifications to control his own fate. However, every sect has a great mountain protection array. This is rather troublesome. If the heavenly Tao doesn't have a powerful great mountain protection array, Xing Hui's eyes flashed. Black Heaven Taoist Master and Savage Sword, these 2 people belonged to the heavenly Tao. Xing Hui did not forget the pain that these 2 people had brought to him. Black Heaven Taoist Master, Savage Sword, I'll let the 2 of you live for a while. The cold light in Xing Hui's eyes gradually receded. He believed that esteemed Zhu Zhao, who had obtained the great source, would need less time to break through to the profound void realm than he had imagined. When esteemed Zhu Zhao stepped into the profound void realm and even broke through to the vacuum-shattering realm, the structure of the divine wilderness world would definitely change. At that time, he would definitely be able to find an opportunity to take revenge. As for before esteemed Zhu Zhao and before the heavenly Tao and the heavenly Tao started a full-scale war, he still had one more important thing to do, and that was to collect the space crystal. When esteemed Zhu Zhao broke through to the profound void realm, he would have the means to mobilize the power of space. Once he collected enough space crystal, he would be able to activate the mysterious formation on the Fortune mainland and return to Earth. He would reunite with his family and friends and fulfill the promise he made to senior sister Jiang Ningji. In his mind, this matter was even more important than taking revenge on Black Heaven Taoist Master and Savage Sword. Esteemed Zhu Zhao should still need some time before he breaks through. As for the space crystal, I'm afraid I can only rely on the Chaos Treasure Pavilion. Before the Chaos Treasure Pavilion spreads any information about the space crystal, I'll interrogate the suffering true God. On one hand, I'll get the method to save Hidden Sword Venerable from him. On the other hand, I'll have enough money to buy the space crystal from him. As Xing Hui spoke, he directly threw the suffering true God out. Then, he turned his sword intent into a thorn and stimulated the unconscious suffering true God to immediately wake up. The moment the suffering true God woke up, his eyes widened as he stared at Tsing Hui. There was uncontrollable shock in his eyes. You and hidden sword, what kind of inheritance did you obtain? When he was in the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth realm, he was able to tear apart my domain, and you're actually this strong. Even hidden sword, who is in the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth realm, is inferior to you. Inheritance? Tsing Hui looked indifferent. Does hidden sword venerable and I have to obtain the inheritance from the ancient times to be able to reach this level? Alright, true God of suffering, now that you've fallen into my hands, your life and death are in my hands, so you best cooperate with me obediently. Otherwise, you should understand that countless cultivators in our world have developed various torture methods to force other sons of chaos to hand over their chaos techniques. Do you want to try them one by one? What kind of grudge does Black Flame sect have with you? How dare you bully Black Flame sect time and time again? The suffering true God gritted his teeth as he stared at Tsing Hui. Bully Black Flame sect? You captured the founder of Hidden Sword sect, Hidden Sword Venerable, alive and forced him to hand over everything. As the supreme elder of Hidden Sword sect, why can't I capture you? After Tsing Hui finished speaking, he activated the 6th rotation sword aura and injected a streak of sword aura into the suffering true God's body. Seems like you're going to continue being stubborn. I've learned some tricks from Broken Sword Hand. Although they're not elegant, they're quite effective in torturing people. Today, I'll try them on you and see how long you can last. As the sword aura entered the suffering true God's body, it was as if a thin thread had appeared in his body. It moved around his body continuously and pierced his cells, acupoints, and organs. The excruciating pain caused the suffering true God's expression to change slightly. Stop. What do you want? You can't take it anymore. Tsing Hui smiled faintly. Do you really think that I'm afraid of your torture? However, since you were able to capture me alive, your strength has already gained my acknowledgement. Due to my suffering, even my Black Flame sect is unwilling to continue to be your enemy. Hence, I wish to bury the hatchet with you. I can tell you that when any Saint Realm expert's will, laws, and innate divine aura have fused into one, then the torture of the body would be unable to bring too much pain to the Saint Realm expert. So, the torture of cultivators below the Saint Realm isn't as terrifying and difficult to endure as you imagine. Have you heard of any Saint Realm expert abandoning his dignity and begging for mercy because of the torture and interrogation of his enemies? The suffering true God said forcefully. Tsing Hui couldn't help but crease his eyebrows. He wasn't sure if the suffering true God was telling the truth. In fact, if I didn't want to bury the hatchet between the Black Flame sect and you, I wouldn't have taken the risk of being captured by you. You should know that every expert of the divine realm is at the critical threshold of level 29. At this stage, you only need to take one more step forward to level 30. After level 30, you have the teleportation skill. Even if you trapped me with the hatred heaven realm, I could still use the teleportation skill to fight for a chance of survival. Tsing Hui calmed down a little. The teleportation skill was indeed the best way to save a divine realm expert's life. The suffering true God had shown enough sincerity by not using the teleportation skill to escape. He shouldn't force the suffering true God any further. To him, the most important thing was to find out how to save Hidden Sword Venerable. You should know the reason why I captured you alive. Tsing Hui said, what technique did you leave on Hidden Sword Venerable that made him unconscious? You'd better undo it. Otherwise, don't blame me for being cruel. I've never killed a divine realm expert since I started cultivating. I hope that you won't be the first one. Hidden Sword, the true God of suffering looked at Qing Su. I can awaken Sangjin for you, and I hope we can resolve our grudges. I hope you can get along with our Black Flame sect peacefully when the time comes. If I had known you were so capable, my Black Flame sect would never have made you an enemy. Qing Su glanced at the true God of suffering. Considering that Tianxiong's greatest enemy right now was the heavenly way, he immediately said slowly, I can guarantee you that. As long as your Black Flame sect can bring out enough treasures to redeem you, I obviously won't cause any more trouble for the Black Flame sect. After all, there's no need for me to become your mortal enemy. Redeem, Suffering True God's face grew grave, how much are you going to ask for? As one of the top sects, the Black Flame sect definitely has a lot of Taoist rhymes in reserve. In addition to your wealth, I'm asking for 1,500 Taoist rhymes. Not long ago, the Divine Ghost sect spent a total of 800 Taoist rhymes to redeem a celestial phenomenon of Earth expert. 1,500 Taoist rhymes. How is this possible? The Black Flame sect is different from Heaven Realm. The entire Black Flame sect might not even be able to come up with 1,500 Taoist rhymes. Can you lower your price a little? After all, I've already shown enough sincerity. Lower your price a little. Do you think I'm bargaining with you? You captured the Hidden Sword sect's hidden sword honorable alive and forced him to do so. Don't you think you have to compensate for his loss? Xing Hui squinted his eyes, if you want to lower your price a little, that's fine too. Don't you have a rank 15 defensive treasure, the Fire Emperor's sacred statue? Leave that item behind. I can price it at 800 Taoist rhymes and the Black Flame sect can pay another 700 Taoist rhymes. Suffering True God's face flashed with bitterness. The Fire Emperor's sacred statue was a rank 15 treasure and his life treasure. How could it only be worth 800 Taoist rhymes? If he were to sell it, there would be people fighting to buy it for 1,000 Taoist rhymes. Now that he was under someone else's roof, he had no choice but to lower his head and agree, 1,500 Taoist rhymes it is. I promise you. Xing Hui moved the unconscious hidden sword honorable out of his personal space, alright, let's do it. Suffering True God looked at Xing Hui and said earnestly, I'll wake hidden sword honorable up because the Black Flame sect doesn't want to be your enemy anymore. At the same time, I hope you can keep your promise. I'll naturally do what I said. Xing Hui said coldly. Suffering True God nodded his head. The scene of Xing Hui barging into the Black Flame sect and capturing him alive had really frightened him. The Black Flame sect wasn't backed by Heaven Realm, Divine Wilderness, or Eternal. They didn't have any backing to ask for help. There was no benefit in being enemies with Xing Hui, who was so powerful that he was comparable to an ultimate expert. Chapter 646. Hidden Sword Venerable, who had been in a deep sleep for at least a year, moaned softly. He gradually regained consciousness and opened his eyes. As he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was Xing Hui's relieved gaze. Qing. Xing Hui, Hidden Sword Venerable didn't seem to be fully awake. After a short while, he realized something and his face turned pale. You were captured by the Black Flame sect too. Damn it. Real God in agony, who had just woken up Hidden Sword Venerable, instantly felt awkward. After a short while, he seemed to have thought of something and stared at Xing Hui in shock. Xing Hui? According to the news that we received, Master Zhu Zhao in heaven seems to be taking in a disciple and the disciple's name is Xing Hui. Are you? Xing Hui glanced at Real God in agony and ignored him. Instead, he looked at Hidden Sword Venerable again. Sword Venerable, how do you feel? Do you feel any discomfort? Hidden Sword Venerable looked at Real God in agony as he heard Real God in agony's voice. Real God in agony, you, Hidden Sword Venerable, please don't misunderstand. Seeing Sword Venerable Hidden Sword's expression, True God suffering hurriedly explained, actually, we've already buried the hatchet with Venerable Qing Su. As a matter of fact, I was invited by Venerable Qing Su to release Sword Venerable as soon as possible. Buried the hatchet? Master? Hidden Sword Venerable was stunned. Then, he realized Xing Hui's other identity and turned to him in shock. You asked Master Zhu Zhao in heaven to help you? Also, when did you become Master Zhu Zhao in heaven? Master Zhu Zhao in heaven is the most important person. Usually, only those who have achieved celestial body in earth can take on the role. You. Sword Venerable, you've been in a coma for more than a year. Many things have happened during this time. I'll tell you everything when the time comes. Are you all right now? Xing Hui said. Hidden Sword Venerable shook his head and said, other than feeling a little weak, I'm fine. Then, he took another look at real God Suffering. By then, he could already tell that real God Suffering seemed to be in a worse state than him. His face was pale and he looked like he had yet to recover from his injuries. This made him suspect whether or not esteemed Zhu Zhao had personally attacked real God Suffering. If esteemed Master Zhu Zhao had made a move, he would no longer have to worry about Xing Hui's safety. Sword Lord, do you think I should send you back to the Hidden Sword sect to recuperate, or do you want to come back with me for the time being? Sword Venerable Hidden Sword assessed his current condition. Once the soul-binding chains were removed, he would only need a few days to recover. By then, his battle prowess would be equivalent to half a saint, so he would be able to help Qing Su somewhat. As a result, he still said, I'll stay in Heaven's Dome. Sky Vault. Alright, let's return to Sky Vault. After saying that, he seemed to think of something and turned to the true God of Suffering again. Once your black flame cult hands over the item that carries the way, we can obviously bury the hatchet. However, before that, the black flame cult needs to hand over one person, or don't blame me for paying another visit to the black flame cult. Qixin Dharma King. True God Suffering pondered for a while. Even though he was unwilling to give away a Dharmaraja from his sect, and it would be a huge blow to the black flame cult's reputation, he still reluctantly nodded when he thought of Qing Su's terrifying combat strength that was no weaker than an immortal. Alright, I'll send Dharmaraja Qixin over when the time comes. He'll be at Venerable Qing Su's disposal. Very well. Xing Hui responded. However, he did not give real God Suffering a chance to recover. He directly kept him in his personal space and flew toward Sky Vault. As Hidden Sword Venerable had not fully recovered, Xing Hui did not let him rush over to prevent him from tiring himself out. Instead, he separated a part of his personal space and let Hidden Sword Venerable stay there. Without Hidden Sword Venerable, Xing Hui flew on his sword at an extremely fast speed. One day later, Sky Vault's base in Heaven Wasteland World appeared in front of Xing Hui. Swoosh! Xing Hui pressed down on his flying sword and let Hidden Sword Venerable out of his personal space. At the same time, he asked someone to arrange for Hidden Sword Venerable to rest. Hidden Sword Venerable looked at Xing Hui and seemed to have something to say. However, he seemed to have some concerns and did not say anything. He just went to recover for the time being. I'll ask someone to come over and let you communicate with Black Flame Sect. Xing Hui said to Real God Suffering. Real God Suffering nodded. His performance was excellent. After sending someone to report to the Black Flame Church, he seemed to have thought of something and asked suddenly, not long ago, I heard that the Zhu Zhao Master was surrounded and injured by the Lihan Holy Man, the Qingwei Holy Man, the Anasrava Holy Man and the others. I wonder if he is better now. I have some medicine that can treat basic injuries. If Master Xing Hui doesn't mind, I would like to visit Master Zhu Zhao. There's no need to visit him. Master Zhu Zhao is doing very well now. He is in closed-door training to break through to the insightful emptiness realm. When he comes out again, I'm afraid he will have successfully broken through. Master Zhu Zhao is in closed-door training to break through to the insightful emptiness realm. Real God Suffering was slightly stunned. Then, he immediately thought of the news from the Divine Ghost Sect and exclaimed, is it the innate charm of the previous leader of the Divine Ghost Sect, Wang Qicheng? After obtaining those innate charms, Master Zhu Zhao's domain has reached perfection. Of course. With Master Zhu Zhao's background, is it surprising that he has cultivated his domain to perfection after obtaining those innate charms? Real God Suffering forced a smile and said, of course not, of course not. I'll congratulate Master Zhu Zhao first for entering the insightful emptiness realm. With Master Zhu Zhao's abhijna, once he enters the insightful emptiness realm, he will definitely become the most powerful person in Infinite Region. When that time comes, I'm afraid that Tian Dao's Hundun Holy Man, Eternal's Tai E Emperor and Divine Wilderness's Supreme God Ancient Wilderness will all be inferior to Master Zhu Zhao. As for the specifics, we will only know after the battle. Tsing Hui said. Real God Suffering glanced at Tsing Hui, who had the fighting power of an omnipotent expert, and then thought of Master Zhu Zhao, who had the potential to enter the insightful emptiness realm. He couldn't help but think of the alliance of Sword Shadow, Rainbow Sword Sect and Heaven Vault. Unlike the other organizations, the Black Flame Sect did not have an overly shocking background. As a result, even though this sect was rather active, they had always kept a low profile, unlike the Divine Path Sect, Divine Ghost Sect, Grand Wilderness Sect, Illuminating World Sect, and so on. This was also the reason why True God of Suffering immediately changed his attitude when he saw the battle prowess of a sovereign in the Green Ruins. At that moment, after knowing that Tsing Hui had such an identity in Heaven Vault and that the omnipotent expert in Heaven Vault was about to enter the insightful emptiness realm, when he thought of the alliance of Sword Shadow, Heaven Vault and Rainbow Sword Sect, Real God Suffering suddenly had an idea. He asked carefully, Tsing Hui, can you introduce me to Master Heaven Vault? I have something to discuss with Master Heaven Vault. You want to see Master Heaven Vault? Yes. True God Suffering looked at Qing Su and said sincerely, my Black Flame Sect isn't far from Heaven's Vault, and we're close to the White Rainbow Sword Sect as well. Moreover, our Black Flame Sect is right beside the Divine Path Sect. Now that Heaven's Vault, the White Rainbow Sword Sect, and Shadow Sword have formed an alliance, I'd like to discuss with Master Heaven's Vault to see if our Black Flame Sect can join the alliance as well. In order to show our sincerity, we're willing to work with the White Rainbow Sword Sect and launch a pincer attack to repel the Divine Path Sect so that we can ensure the safety of the White Rainbow Sword Sect. Black Flame Sect wants to join the alliance of the three sects. Tsing Hui looked at Real God Suffering and was about to say something. At that moment, a voice was heard from afar, ha ha ha, Pak Hui, I received news not long ago that someone created a ruckus in Black Flame Sect and even ambushed Real God Suffering and captured him alive. According to the news, his fighting style is very similar to yours. Could it be that you did it? The person who could speak to Tsing Hui in such a tone was none other than Master Tsangzhen. After Master Tsangzhen spoke, he rushed over and his face was filled with smiles. However, Real God Suffering saw the smile and he was furious. However, looking at Master Tsangzhen and Tsing Hui's casual conversation, his anger quickly turned into a bitter smile. He even lowered his head and didn't dare to look into Master Tsangzhen's eyes. Master Tsangzhen, who appeared, noticed Real God Suffering at the first instant and he was shocked. Real God Suffering, it's you, Master Tsangzhen. Real God Suffering hesitated for a while but still cupped his fists at Master Tsangzhen in the end. He was a divine while Tsangzhen was merely a law phenomenon. Even though he was of a high seniority, he definitely didn't have to act in such a manner. What he did at that moment was like a person who had to lower his head. Real God Suffering. The venerable Master Tsangzhen did not dare to be arrogant, so he returned the greeting. At the same time, he communicated with Qing Su secretly as soon as possible. He was filled with disbelief. Kid by Su, what's going on? True God Suffering was actually captured by you, kid? Divine. That was a saint, after all. Even if he had gone bankrupt in order to repair his domain's origin that he had expended not long ago, and even if he didn't have enough Dao-carrying items to support him to raise his chaos level to the 30th level and teleport away, how difficult would it be to capture a saint alive? How did you do it? Real God Suffering used up all the item that carries doctrine. He couldn't increase his level of chaos to level 30. Of course. Do you think it's easy to recover his realm origin so quickly after burning it? Without the help of some external forces, How could he have adjusted his domain origin in less than a year? Zungjin exulted, being gloated as he said, "Normally, a divine god won't go out easily after using up all of his carrier items. I guess suffering true god had the same thought too. He thought that even if he couldn't raise his chaotic level to level 30, as long as he didn't leave the Black Flame sect, he would be safe with the mountain protection formation. Who would have thought that you would be so good at sneaking in and capturing him alive with a sneak attack? I guess when he was captured by you, he even had the thought of crying. Misfortune came from the sky while he was sitting at home." Tsing Hui glanced at real God suffering. He had to admit that this divine was really an old fox. He obviously couldn't increase his level of chaos to level 30 and use the teleportation spell to escape, but he said it so sincerely. He said that he was captured by Tsing Hui on purpose so that he could bury the hatchet, but now, real God Suffering's attitude was good, and he even wanted to persuade the Black Flame sect to join the alliance of Sword Shadow, Rainbow Sword sect, and Heaven Dome sect. Even if he knew the truth, he couldn't kill him. However, he didn't plan to give up the 1,500 odal. Even if it wasn't for himself, he had to take back the compensation for Hidden Sword Honorable. Chapter 647. Tian Dao was powerful. Not only did he have 8 great Dao masters, but he also had the Divine Path sect as a pawn. He also had a great influence on the Grand Supreme secretly. Even if Qianqiong joined forces with the Rainbow Sword sect and Jianing, he might not have the confidence to go against Tian Dao. If the Black Flame sect really wanted to join in, it would change the situation for Qianqiong. Considering these problems, Tsing Hui asked Zhangjin Shangren to bring the suffering true god to see Qianqiong while he returned to his courtyard. This time, he forced his way into the Black Flame sect, fought with the 3 divine masters of the Black Flame sect, and even went against the mountain protection formation of the Black Flame sect. This allowed him to have a good understanding of his own abilities. He still needed to sort out what he had gained. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. 3 days later, Qianqiong ordered his disciple, Chen Guang, to invite Tsing Hui to his courtyard. In this courtyard, other than Qianqiong, Zhangjin Shangren, Yuanri Shangren, and even Sanyao Shangren of the 6 sacred sects were all there. Seeing Tsing Hui coming, Qianqiong master's face was full of smiles. He pointed at the seat in front of him and said, "Come, Tsing Hui, sit." Before Tsing Hui could sit down, Zhangjin Shangren asked impatiently, "Tsing Hui, the suffering true god said that you have abilities that are not inferior to an omnipotent. Is this news true? Tell me the details of the god protection formation that you used to fight against the Black Flame sect." "Haha, 1 man and 1 sword, you killed your way into a supreme sect, captured their divine master alive, and tore apart their mountain protection formation. I can't wait to know the details of the whole thing." Venerable Yuanri and Venerable Threefold Prodigy nodded as well. Their gazes towards Qing Su were filled with probing. "My cultivation has indeed increased as the sword momentum condenses. I don't know how far away I am from an omnipotent, but I shouldn't be too much weaker." Tsing Hui said. "Shouldn't be too much weaker. In other words, you really killed your way into the Black Flame sect, captured the suffering true god alive in a short period of time, and then retreated calmly when the world savior true god and the only true god activated the mountain protection formation." Celestial Master Sky's eyes were full of light. "I can't say that I'm calm. If I were to continue fighting, I wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. However, if I had really planned to capture and kill real God suffering from the very beginning before leaving, real God World Savior and the one real God wouldn't have been able to stop me even if they had activated the protective mountain array." Tsing Hui said calmly. "All right." Master Zhangjin slapped the table heavily and said, "Tsing Hui, there is one thing that you don't know, right? We also have spies in the Black Flame sect, but the level of those spies is lower. They are only in the Gold Core realm and have yet to enter the core of the Black Flame sect's authority. However, according to the information from those spies, the mountain protection array of the Black Flame sect was almost destroyed by you. If you could maintain that kind of attack for another 10 breaths, the divine protection array of the Black Flame sect would definitely not be able to withstand it. I remember that you actually have the backtracking skill with you. In other words, even if you had exhausted all your strength at that time, once you activate the backtracking skill, you can still fight another battle. Based on this, I can infer that if you were to continue fighting, you definitely have the right to forcefully break the mountain protection array of the Black Flame sect. The mountain protection array. To the side, Master Yuanri had wanted to compete with Tsing Hui when he learned that he had obtained the title of master. He wanted to understand the methods of this newly promoted master. However, because Tsing Hui had stayed in the Sky Dome realm for a period of time, he had gone to the Rainbow Sword sect with Sword Master Baiheim, so he did not have the chance to raise this request. However, when he met Tsing Hui again, he found that Tsing Hui was already strong enough to capture a divine being alive. Master Tsing Hui may not know this, but in fact, the standard to measure a supreme expert is whether or not he has the ability to break through a 12th order mountain protection array with a divine being in charge of the array. Master Yuanri said, after all, due to various reasons and restrictions, in our divine wilderness world, other than the heavenly way, eternal, divine wilderness, 4 stars palace, 6 sacred sects, and a few other powers, almost all of the great sects' mountain protection arrays only have 12th order mountain protection arrays. And if a divine realm expert is supported by a 12th order mountain protection array, they will often be able to match 3 or 4 divine realm experts. Over time, this has become the standard to measure a supreme expert. At this point, he added, of course, because the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets has only listed 10 names for the supreme experts, although Master Tsing Hui has battle strength that is not inferior to a supreme expert. If you really want to become a supreme expert and spread the news throughout the world, you will have to fight one of the 10 supreme experts. 10 supreme experts. Tsing Hui had a detailed understanding of the 10 supreme experts of the divine wilderness. The top 3 were naturally the 3 giants of the divine wilderness, eternal, and heavenly way, who had obtained the inheritance of the immemorial cavern and broken through to the insightful emptiness stage. Master Zhu Zhao was ranked 4th, and in 5th place was the Grand Lord of the 4 Stars Palace, Yishuanji. Behind them were the Sword Bearer of the Shadow-Bearing Sword, the Samsara Saint Master of the All Saints Palace, the Sun Moon Divine King of the Sun Moon Divine Court, the Bottomless Abyss Saint Master of the Annihilation Sect, and the Jade Emperor Holy Man of the Great Way Sect. Among the 10 supreme experts, only the Tai Yi Emperor, the Supreme God of the Ancient Barons, and the Chaos Holy Man had solid positions. Other than that, the Master Zhu Zhao, Yishuanji, and the Sword Bearer of the Shadow-Bearing Sword had solid positions. The remaining Samsara Saint Master, the Sun Moon Divine King, the Bottomless Abyss Saint Master, and the Jade Emperor Holy Man were not as solid as they appeared to be. There were still a few people who were qualified to challenge them. For example, the Sword Master Baiheim of the Rainbow Sword Sect, the mysterious Pavilion Master of the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets, the Divine Wilderness Sky-Splitting Divine King, the Leakless Holy Man who was not good at fighting but had a good plan, and now Tsing Hui. This was especially so for the Eternity Sect and the Way of the Heavens. If these 3 sects were willing to give their 17th order divine artifacts to the Leakless Holy Man and the Brilliant Sun Emperor, the 2 of them would immediately possess combat power comparable to that of a supreme expert. Although the 10 supreme experts are very reputable, Tsing Hui's current strength may not be enough to secure the throne of the 10 supreme experts. Therefore, there is no hurry. Let's wait for a while. When Zhu Zhao has made a breakthrough and the Celestial Dome sect needs to make a real statement, we will let Tsing Hui take the position of the supreme experts. When that time comes, we will have 2 supreme experts in the Celestial Dome sect and we will be like the sun in the sky. Even if we can leap to the level of the Way of the Heavens, the Eternity Sect, and the Divine Wilderness Sect, it will not be an extravagant hope. The Celestial Dome sect has never been in such a good situation before. The Firmament Sect Master said. Master Tsongjun also nodded. At the same time, he glanced in the direction of Master Zhuzhao's closed-door cultivation. Zhuzhao's comprehension of the laws has already reached the peak. Now that he has obtained that divine artifact, it will be a matter of course for him to make a breakthrough. According to my estimation, it should be during this period of time. The key is how long it will take for him to break through the second barrier after he has broken through the first barrier. Master Yuanri, the firmament sect master, and Xing Hui all knew what the second barrier was. The vacuum-crushing realm. The vacuum-crushing realm. The giants of the Way of the Heavens, the Eternity sect, and the Divine Wilderness sect had already obtained a lot of resources after excavating the cave residents of the existence who had created a world with a single thought decades ago. They had already embarked on the path of closed-door cultivation to break through the vacuum-crushing realm. In terms of talent, Master Zhuzhao was not inferior to any of Tai, Hunyuan, or the ancient wilderness sect. Now, it all depended on whether he could reach the vacuum-crushing realm first after lagging behind for decades. When Master Zhuzhao breaks through to the profound void realm, he should come out of closed-door cultivation once and discuss with us the direction of the firmament sect's development. We will naturally know when the time comes. The firmament sect master said. Master Yuanri and Master Cangzhen also nodded. After a while, Master Yuanri seemed to think of something and suddenly turned to Xing Hui. Master Xing Hui, I remember that you are asking about the whereabouts of void crystals. Do you want to buy them? Yes, I am indeed asking about the whereabouts of void crystals. Xing Hui was pleasantly surprised when he heard Master Yuanri mention it. Master, have you heard where void crystals can be sold? Yes, the Glorious Era sect has released news that they will use their sect's trading company to hold a large-scale auction. The auction items include 10 void crystals. Glorious Era sect. Xing Hui knew that the Glorious Era sect was a force supported by the Eternal. Its nature was similar to the Great Desolate sect supported by the Divine Wilderness and the Divine Path sect supported by the Heavenly Tao. The items that the Glorious Era sect wanted to auction were almost equivalent to the eternal auctioning materials. The scale of the auction would definitely not be small. 10 is a little, but it's better than nothing. When will the auction begin? The Glorious Era sect seems to attach great importance to this auction. It is said that there are many precious treasures up for sale. Some of those treasures are of great help to the Almighties. In order to spread the news to every corner of the world, they have set the auction to be held half a year later. Half a year. Xing Hui nodded. I understand. Although void crystals are mainly used to construct worlds, they can also be used to create storage rings. Sometimes, void crystals can even be used to open ancient caves or certain secret realms. Therefore, they can be sold at a high price. One piece is usually around 15 to 20 Daoist rhymes. Master Xing Hui, if you really plan to buy all of those void crystals, you'd better prepare at least 200 Daoist rhymes. Do you have enough Daoist rhymes? If you don't have enough, you can take some from me. Master Yuanri said. Hearing this, Master Firmament could not help but laugh. Master Yuanri, any of us may lack Daoist rhymes, but Master Xing Hui does not lack them. In the past few days, the Black Flame sect has sent a message saying that they are willing to redeem the suffering true God at the high price of 1,500 Daoist rhymes. 1,500 Daoist rhymes. That's the amount of Daoist rhymes we have in reserve in the entire Firmament sect. With such a rich amount of Daoist rhymes coming into his account, how can he be short of Daoist rhymes? Master Yuanri laughed. Capturing a divine being alive. It just so happens that the divine being's Daoist rhymes can't even be used with the teleportation technique. Only Master Xing Hui can have this kind of luck. I even suspect that Xing Hui has upgraded his luck characteristic to level 10. Isn't that so? The Black Flame sect's ransom should be delivered by the one true God in the next few days. When the time comes, Master Xing Hui should treat us to a feast. Xing Hui nodded slightly. I definitely won't forget you, masters. Chapter 648. After chatting with Venerable Master Firmament and the others for a while, Tsing Hui returned to his courtyard. As he considered his next cultivation method, he also thought of ways to reduce the consumption of the Sword of Sunlight. The Dragon Abyss Sword has already reached level 15 after being nurtured. However, if I want to reach level 16, even if I constantly use Sword Essence and Sword Chi to cleanse and refine it, I'm afraid I'll still need hundreds of years. This is also because I recently made a breakthrough and condensed sword force. I can temporarily give up on this path. The next step is to strengthen my body. Currently, my body's strength is only equivalent to the 9th transformation of the 9 transformations of the True Dragon. If I can break through to the True Dragon realm, I don't need the backtracking technique. The number of swords of sunlight I can slash out will reach the limit of the Dragon Abyss Sword. Qing Su estimated the direction he should take next. Right now, all he could do was start from these two aspects. Perhaps I can consider the laws. Tsing Hui thought of the next step of the transcendent realm, lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. Lawful embodiment of heaven and earth, domain, insightful void, and even crushing vacuum were all related to the laws of heaven and earth. Among them, lawful embodiment of heaven and earth borrowed the power of the laws, domain simulated the power of the laws, insightful void understood the power of the laws, and crushing vacuum was so powerful that it could tear apart the laws and space. Tear apart the laws. Tsing Hui could not help but think of the time when he fought with the true God of salvation and the only true God. He relied on the divine technique to slash out the sword of sunlight to form a spatial crack. When I used the divine art to slash out the sword of sunlight, I clearly felt that my swordsmanship was bound by some special power. When I broke this binding, it formed a spatial crack, and thus had the characteristic of shattering the vacuum. That binding, is it the law? Tsing Hui stood up and went straight to his cultivation room. When he reached the cultivation room, he pulled out his deep scarlet sword and slashed out, I can't feel that binding. Tsing Hui closed his eyes. Only when the speed and power of my sword reach a certain level can I sense the existence of the vast power that binds the heavens and the earth. It's like a human. If he's not moving fast enough, he won't be able to sense how great the resistance in the air is. Tsing Hui rested for a while. After the cooldown of the divine technique was over, he left the training room and headed for a rocky mountain about 600 kilometers away from the Sky Dome base. This area was, in fact, a place where the superiors of the Celestial Dome sect would experiment with their divine abilities and sword techniques after they had comprehended them. The area within a radius of more than 200 kilometers was filled with rocks, and the ordinary people living in this area had been advised to leave by the Celestial Dome sect's personnel. No matter how the top experts of the Celestial Dome sect messed around, there would not be any additional losses. When Tsing Hui arrived in the sky above this area, it just so happened that a powerful being was using his divine ability to bombard the ground. Not far away from this pile of chaos, there were more than a dozen cultivators ranging from the True Element realm to the Golden Core realm. Looking at their appearances, they seemed to be the disciples of that Almighty. This is the Purple Shao Taoist Master. Tsing Hui looked at the familiar figure in the void and immediately recognized her identity. The Purple Shao Taoist Master could also be regarded as his guide into the Celestial Dome sect. Tsing Hui came riding on his sword. The disciples of the Purple Shao Taoist Master who were watching from afar also noticed his arrival. These people followed the Purple Shao Taoist Master and naturally had a good understanding of Tsing Hui. At the same time, they were also very clear about Tsing Hui's real cultivation time. Thinking of the lofty status that Tsing Hui had obtained in the Celestial Dome sect, these people also looked at Tsing Hui curiously when they saluted him. Tsing Hui. Master Tsing Hui. At this time, the Purple Shao Taoist Master had also finished testing his divine ability and landed. Greetings, Purple Shao Taoist Master. Tsing Hui bowed slightly. Don't. I can't accept your salute. The Purple Shao Taoist Master hurriedly moved aside. The Taoist Master is my guide. If it weren't for the Taoist master's recommendation back then, how could I, Tsing Hui, have achieved what I have now? Tsing Hui said with a smile. Now that he was standing at the peak of the divine wilderness world, there was no need to hide his identity at all. Calling himself Tsing Hui also meant that he did not have to worry about his identity being exposed and causing trouble. I remember that when you first joined the Celestial Dome sect, you were merely in the first spirit refining realm. Now, after more than 10 years, you have leaped to the top existence and been given the title of Master by the Celestial Dome sect. I'm afraid that it's not as simple as your chaos level being higher and you being the first in the war of chaos, right? Although it's a little hard to believe, I still want to try to guess. The Purple Shao Taoist Master looked at Tsing Hui. You haven't already derived a divine ability and become a powerful existence, have you? If it were in the past, Tsing Hui would have to avoid such a sensitive question, but now, he nodded and admitted in a natural and unrestrained manner. Yes, I have indeed cultivated a divine ability. As expected. The Purple Shao Taoist Master looked at Tsing Hui with unconcealable amazement in his eyes. Who would have thought that a young man who was only in the spirit refining realm for more than 10 years could actually evolve a divine ability in such a short time and leap to become a powerful existence at the peak of the divine wilderness? A powerful existence? Master Tsing Hui has really become a powerful existence. Although only those who are in the celestial body realm and have contributed a lot to the Celestial Dome sect can become a master, Master Tsing Hui has only used more than 10 years to go from spirit refining realm to a powerful existence. With such talent, he deserves the title of master in advance. My God, I've been guessing whether Master Tsing Hui has already formed a Jin Dan. After all, more than 10 years is too short. However, I didn't expect that Master has already evolved a divine ability and become a powerful existence. Unbelievable, this is simply unbelievable. Waves of exclamations sounded from the mouths of the many disciples of the Purple Shao Taoist Master. Tsing Hui's gaze swept across these disciples one by one. Most of them were in awe, and some had a look of jealousy in their eyes. However, most of them were mainly envious. Among them, half of them seemed to be inspired by his legendary achievement and planned to go back immediately to work hard and strive to replicate the miracle of evolving a divine ability like Tsing Hui did in more than 10 years. Master Tsing Hui, do you have a divine ability that you want to test this time? If I may be so bold as to ask, can we watch from the side? So as to broaden the horizons of my disciples? Said the Purple Shao Taoist Master. After that, she hurriedly added, if Master is studying some secret killing moves, then please forgive me for offending you. We'll leave right away. Tsing Hui hesitated for a moment. He was a little worried that the means he demonstrated would frighten the Purple Shao Taoist Master and the others. However, after a while, he felt relieved. When the Reverend Zhu Zhao broke through the insightful emptiness realm, the firmament realm would definitely vigorously publicize the two supreme experts, him and the Reverend Zhu Zhao, to enhance the reputation of the firmament realm. In that case, it would not be a big deal to leak some information in the firmament realm in advance. Moreover, the Purple Shao Taoist Master was his guide, so he should naturally satisfy such a small request. There's nothing shameful about it. If I really want to study a top-secret killing move, I naturally won't choose to practice it here. However, due to the general direction of the firmament realm, I still hope that you can keep what you see today a secret as much as possible. I estimate that it won't take too long to keep it a secret. At most, it'll take 2 or 3 months. Of course, I'll make sure that they don't spread it out easily. The Purple Shao Taoist Master promised. She was really curious about Tsing Hui's current strength. Otherwise, she would not have taken the liberty to request to watch Tsing Hui test his divine sense. Tsing Hui nodded to the Purple Shao Taoist Master and immediately leaped up. In an instant, he crossed the distance of the void and directly appeared dozens of kilometers away. What a fast speed! This speed! I'm afraid he can fly dozens of kilometers away in a breath's time. Among the disciples of the Purple Shao Taoist master, a middle-aged man with a cultivation base of the golden elixir realm whispered. A man with a great reputation lives up to his name. Since the higher-ups of the firmament realm have bestowed the title of master to Tsing Hui, he's certainly not a weakling. Let's just wait and see patiently. Another young woman in the golden elixir realm said. Her name was Dan Qing, and she was the disciple that the Purple Shao Taoist master favored the most. At the same time, she was also the one who was most likely to cultivate a divine sense among the many disciples of the Purple Shao Taoist master. Currently, she had already condensed an upper-grade golden elixir. All of you, protect your eyes. Tsing Hui flew into the void and said. Then, with a shake of his right hand, the scarlet abyss sword appeared in his hand, and then, the sword of sunlight. Buzz buzz. The intense radiance that instantly burst out caused the Purple Shao Taoist master's expression to change greatly. In particular, the terrifying, blazing, and violent power that escaped from the sword of sunlight made the divinity realm expert who led Tsing Hui into the firmament realm unable to help but exclaim, "Great divinity! Great divinity! This is a great divinity!" Even an almighty like the Purple Shao Taoist master was like this, let alone the ordinary disciples of the true energy realm to the golden elixir realm. Even though Tsing Hui had warned them beforehand to circulate their true energy to protect their eyes, when the blazing, dazzling light shone over, two disciples with weaker cultivation base still cried out in pain and closed their eyes at once. Large amounts of tears flowed down from the corners of their eyes. Great divinity! It's actually a great divinity. No wonder the venerables were willing to give him the title of venerable. With a great divinity, Tsing Hui only needs to perfect his great divinity, and he'll immediately have the ability to fight against law manifestations of heaven and earth. Furthermore, due to the certain limitations of the law manifestations of heaven and earth's combat power, the deterrence of an almighty who has cultivated a great divinity is even greater than that of a law manifestations of heaven and earth. The Purple Shao Taoist master exhaled a long breath, as if he had seen through the truth of the matter. However, Tsing Hui, who had slashed out with his sword, clearly did not stop. In just a moment, he had already slashed out a second time, followed by a third and a fourth. Each slash was faster than the last. When the Purple Shao Taoist master saw this scene, he was once again stunned. The execution of a great divinity can be so fast. Master, Venerable Tsing Hui, what is he doing? Dan Qing pursed his lips and asked. The Purple Shao Taoist master was about to say something, but at this moment, the aura on Tsing Hui's body suddenly skyrocketed. In the next moment, under the Almighty's horrified gaze, his sword of sunlight slashed out again. A pitch-black crack that seemed to be able to devour everything suddenly appeared on the blade of his sword. Chapter 649. Crushing Vacuum. Crushing Vacuum. This is crushing vacuum. Reverend Purple Shao stared at the sword of sunlight that Tsing Hui had slashed out. His eyes suddenly widened, and his face was filled with shock. His body seemed to involuntarily lean forward because the scene in front of him was too sensational. However, Tsing Hui did not stop because of Reverend Purple Zhao's shock. The second slash, the third slash, and the fourth slash, an endless stream of swords of sunlight was slashed out by him. Even though each of his swordlights landed in empty space, and most of the power of each swordlight was swallowed up by the spatial cracks formed by the crushing vacuum, causing the momentum of these sword arts to be inferior to when he did not use the divine art, when these swordlights fell into the eyes of Reverend Purple Shao, they still shocked him to the extreme. Whoosh! As Tsing Hui continued to test his sword arts, one figure after another rushed over from the direction of the vault of heaven at full speed. The sonic booms formed by flying swords constantly exploded at the end of the horizon, and then transformed into figures of great importance in the vault of heaven outside this stone forest. Reverend Wufa. Dark Phoenix. That should be Reverend Hidden Sword of the Hidden Sword sect, right? He was brought here by esteemed Tsing an esteemed Yuanri and esteemed Zhangzhen. The two esteemed masters have actually arrived. Reverend Purple Shao looked at the rapidly approaching figures, and while he was surprised, he also felt that it was reasonable. The commotion caused by Tsing Hui's sword testing had far exceeded that of any transcendent realm expert. At such a close distance, it was normal for the people in the Vault of Heaven's encampment to have heard the news and come over. It's esteemed Tsing Hui. No wonder there's such a big commotion. Is that brat Tsing Hui experimenting with a newly comprehended divine art? What's that black line on the tip of his divine sword? It's actually crazily devouring the surrounding energy. Was this one of his divine abilities? No, this isn't a divine ability. This can't be. Oh my God, I need to get closer to take a look. Please don't let it be what I think it is. The few almighty experts and masters cried out in surprise as they quickly flew towards the stone forest. They did not even have the time to greet Reverend Purple Shao as they stared with their eyes wide open at the black cracks that appeared on the edge of every sword beam unleashed by Tsing Hui. This, you didn't see wrong. This is a sign that the vacuum is about to shatter. At this time, Purple Shao Taoist Master had already recovered from his shock. Tsing Hui's attack has reached the critical point of shattering the vacuum. Crushing vacuum? This can't be real, right? From the looks of it, it should be similar to the effect of crushing vacuum. That sword, the effect of crushing vacuum should be related to that sword. Could it be that the divine sword in Tsing Hui's hands has reached the 17th level, or even the 18th level, which is the same level as the shadow-bearing divine sword in the Sword Shadows? Venerable Yuanri, Venerable Zhangzhen, Reverend Wu Fa, Xian Huang, Venerable Hidden Sword, and the others looked at Tsing Hui in the air and discussed animatedly. Venerable Yuanri and Venerable Zhangzhen, in particular, were somewhat doubtful about whether Tsing Hui had the battle prowess of an omnipotent expert. Now that they saw with their own eyes that Tsing Hui could actually produce an effect of crushing vacuum, their guesses instantly became reality. No matter whether Tsing Hui relied on that divine weapon to produce the effect of crushing vacuum or some other reason, the fact that he has such an ability is enough to prove his current strength. It seems that the ancient cave abode excavated by Venerable Qing Su is truly extraordinary. Venerable Yuanri and Venerable Zhangzhen sighed. Venerable Hidden Sword looked at Tsing Hui, who was constantly slashing out sword light, and there was an indescribable pride in his eyes. Others did not know, but Venerable Hidden Sword understood that the Dragon Abyss sword in Tsing Hui's hand was at most a 15th level divine weapon. A 15th level divine weapon was indeed not bad for ordinary saints, but it was not outstanding. After all, because many ancient cave residences had been excavated, the cultivators of the heaven wasteland world had a great advantage in terms of divine weapons. A saint would be embarrassed to say that they did not have a 13th level divine weapon. Often, some capable saints would find a 14th level or even 15th level divine weapon. For example, the Great Scattered Star Disk and the 10 Boundary Ring on them were 16th level divine weapons. And above them, there were 17th level divine weapons in the hands of Primal Chaos Holy Man, Tai Yi Emperor, Venerable God Ancient Desolation, Venerable Zhu Zhao, and the others. Even a 17th level divine weapon was not the limit of the divine weapons in the divine wasteland world. Among the sword shadows, there was still an 18th level divine sword, the shadow-bearing sword. From this point of view, relying on a 15th level divine weapon to create a vacuum-shattering effect was indeed enough to suppress more than 90% of the saint experts in the divine wasteland. Who? In the void, Tsing Hui immersed his mind in the process of the Sword of the Sun Radiance, breaking the shackles of the rules again and again, until his physical body gradually could not bear the burden, and then he stopped swinging the sword again and again. In the process of the Sword of the Sun Radiance, breaking the shackles of the rules again and again, he himself also had a new understanding of the rules. Not to say that he had comprehended, but at least he had come into contact with the existence of the rules. It was like a person, before breaking the sound barrier, even if others told him a deluge of heavenly flowers, he still did not know what it felt like to break the sound barrier. But as long as he broke the sound barrier once, even if he did it through a different method, he would be able to have a new understanding of the sound barrier. Tsing Hui withdrew his mind and glanced in all directions, immediately noticing the many powerful figures surrounding the stone forest. Masters, you are all here, and Sword Venerable Hidden Sword as well. Tsing Hui withdrew his sword and landed in front of Venerable Yuanri, Venerable Hidden Sword, and Sword Venerable Hidden Sword. Amazing! Venerable Yuanri said sincerely, I believe in the words of the tribulation true God. Venerable Hidden Sword laughed and said, everything is ready. Next, we will wait for Zhu Zhao. Purple Sky Spiritual Master and Wu Fa Spiritual Master, who did not know that Venerable Zhu Zhao had refined the originator, were a little confused, but they did not ask. The two masters did not tell them this news, obviously because they were not qualified to come into contact with this information. Sword Venerable Hidden Sword was also watching from the side, and only found some free time to say, Tsing Hui, if you have time, come to my courtyard. What he wanted to say to Tsing Hui, he had to do it in private. He had to think carefully and choose a suitable time to say it. Tsing Hui glanced at Sword Venerable Hidden Sword and seemed to have thought of something. He nodded and said, okay, Venerable Hidden Sword, don't worry. I will let you deal with Qixin Dharma King personally. Qixin Dharma King. Sword Venerable Hidden Sword nodded seriously after hearing this. Okay, you have all seen it. Let's go back. We can talk about it when we get back. Venerable Hidden Sword was happy for a moment, and then he called Tsing Hui and went straight to Heaven's residence. Tsing Hui had to say goodbye to Purple Sky Spiritual Master, and was taken out of the stone forest by Venerable Hidden Sword. Reverend Purple Sky's eyes were slightly gloomy as she watched Qing Su and the others leave, but there was also some relief in her eyes. She never thought that the young man she had casually led over a dozen years ago would actually grow to such an extent in just a few short years. He had even surpassed her, the person who led him here. Now, he was even on the same level as Reverend Song Zhen, Reverend Yuanri, Reverend Song Zhen, and Reverend Zhu Zhao. Master, did you really bring this Tsing Hui to Heaven's residence more than 10 years ago? Was he really only a spirit refining realm cultivator more than 10 years ago? The third of the 6 realms of immortality, the spirit refining realm? Dan Qing, who was at the side, lost her calm and asked. Spirit refining realm. I remember everything clearly. He was indeed a spirit refining realm cultivator. Purple Sky Spiritual Master sighed. After a moment, she seemed to have thought of something. Nailan Fei was her disciple. Nailan Fei and Tsing Hui had a close relationship, and Tsing Hui had shown such amazing achievements, it was time to teach this disciple well. Tsing Hui, did you feel the laws of heaven and earth when you used the Sword of Sunburst just now? Venerable Hidden Sword asked as soon as he and Tsing Hui returned to Heaven's residence. Yes, I did. Good. Venerable Hidden Sword nodded vigorously, and his face was full of joy. I didn't expect you to come into contact with the laws of heaven and earth in this way. However, no matter what method you use, it's easy to come into contact with the laws of heaven and earth. What you need to do next is to understand the laws of heaven and earth deeply until you can integrate your attacks into the laws of heaven and earth, and then borrow them. Tsing Hui nodded. Remember what I told you before? If you come into contact with the laws of heaven and earth, tell us. During this period of time, you have made several great contributions to Heaven's residence, especially buying that divine object, which has helped us overcome the previous crisis. Now, it's time for Heaven's residence to repay you. Come with me. After Venerable Hidden Sword said this, he was about to leave with Tsing Hui. Sword Venerable Hidden Sword originally wanted to invite Tsing Hui to his courtyard to have a talk with Tsing Hui, but when he saw Venerable Hidden Sword looking for Tsing Hui, he had to put this matter aside for the time being. Firmament. Venerable Hidden Sword took Tsing Hui directly to Firmament Master's courtyard. At this time, Firmament Master was discussing something with an elder in the Gold Core realm. When he saw Venerable Hidden Sword and Tsing Hui, he asked, "What's the matter?" "But it's important. If it's not a big deal, you can leave for a while," Venerable Hidden Sword said to the elder in the Gold Core realm. The elder in the Gold Core realm did not dare to disobey Venerable Hidden Sword's order, so he quickly left. After the elder in the Gold Core realm left, Venerable Hidden Sword said with a hint of excitement, "Firmament, Tsing Hui, no, Tsing Hui, he has come into contact with the laws of heaven and earth." "Ha!" Firmament Master, who was flipping through the information, suddenly raised his head. "He has come into contact with the laws of heaven and earth? So fast?" "Huh, Tsing Hui is not taking the usual path. If others want to come into contact with the laws of heaven and earth, they can only cultivate their divine power step by step. When the divine power evolves to the peak, it will naturally resonate with the laws of heaven and earth." However, Tsing Hui directly launched a vacuum-shattering attack. In order to shatter the vacuum, he naturally has to break the restraints of the laws of heaven and earth first. Venerable Hidden Sword laughed. He actually used this method to come into contact with the laws of heaven and earth? Firmament Master's eyes lit up. Then, he stood up excitedly. "If that's the case, then it's time for you to refine this Wuji Dao fruit. If nothing goes wrong, this Dao fruit can directly advance you to the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth." As soon as he finished speaking, a Dao fruit that seemed to be condensed from a fiery red mass of air and exuded a mysterious aura appeared in Firmament Master's hand. Chapter 650. Directly advancing to lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. There's actually such a divine item? Tsing Hui looked at the limitless Dao fruit with a look of astonishment. This is also the reason why the heavenly Tao and Eternal did not hesitate to cross the cosmos to attack my divine wilderness. Other than the production of Tao charms, our divine wilderness has many other mystical properties. For example, this limitless Tao fruit is one of the mystical properties that have been passed down since ancient times. It is said that there were 3 limitless fruit trees in the divine wilderness back then. The fruits on the limitless fruit trees ripen once every 108 years, and each time they ripen, there will be 81 Tao fruits. Unfortunately, with the destruction of the divine wilderness, the 3 limitless fruit trees also collapsed and disappeared into the annals of history. This limitless Tao fruit in front of me was obtained from an ancient cave abode. Venerable Firmament handed the limitless Tao fruit to Tsing Hui. "Take it and refine it immediately. You already have combat strength that is not weaker than an ultimate expert. If you can refine the limitless Tao fruit, your understanding of the laws of heaven and earth will definitely deepen. When the time comes, even if you don't enter the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth state, your combat strength will increase by 30 to 40%, or even 40 to 50%. In fact, this is also the reason why lawful embodiment of heaven and earth experts are stronger than ordinary almighties." 30 to 40%, Tsing Hui nodded. Don't underestimate this 30 to 40% increase. It had to be known that ordinary Saint Realm powerhouses were only 4 to 5 times stronger than almighties. However, in a true life and death battle, even if dozens of almighties swarmed at them, as long as the Saint Realm powerhouses didn't choose to fight to the death, they would still have a way to kill these almighties one by one. An increase of 30 to 40% was already enough to give an almighty a significant advantage when dealing with another almighty. Alright, go. I hope you can successfully step into lawful embodiment of heaven and earth when you come out of seclusion. Venerable Firmament said with a smile. Lawful embodiment of heaven and earth, Tsing Hui nodded. However, he was still somewhat unsure if he could step into the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. The ultimate sword Dao seemed to have skipped the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth stage. In other words, he had skipped the stage of deriving the divine ability to the extreme and resonating with the laws. However, He would have to wait until he saw the effects of the limitless Tao fruit before coming to a conclusion. Tsing Hui immediately expressed his gratitude and bid farewell to Master Tianxiong and Master Zhangzhen before returning to his own courtyard. When he arrived at the courtyard, he did not deliberately inform the others and directly entered his cultivation room. In the cultivation room, Qing Su carefully thought about the restriction from the laws of the world when he used the saint technique to create the sword of sunburst. Only after gaining a vague understanding of the restriction did he take out the fruit of infinite ways and ingest it in a single gulp, refining it into his body. The limitless Tao fruit was called a Tao fruit, but in reality, it was a manifestation of energy. It just looked like a fruit. As soon as Tsing Hui swallowed the limitless Tao fruit, he immediately sensed the power of the limitless Tao fruit endlessly seeping into his body, causing his body to quietly undergo changes. Under these changes, his perception of the laws of the world increased significantly. If the laws of the world were like air in his eyes before, only when he ran at full speed could he feel their existence through the cool breeze brushing against his face. But now, the air in front of his eyes had become flowing, constantly blowing against his body, making the existence of the laws of the world within his reach. This limitless Tao fruit is really extraordinary. Tsing Hui carefully sensed it, and his eyes flashed with amazement. The most important thing in the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth stage is to integrate oneself into the laws of the world, so that the laws of the world no longer become one's shackles, but instead become one's driving force. Simply put, it's to let the cool breeze in front of me become the driving force behind me, pushing me forward even faster. Tsing Hui brandished the scarlet sword a little. Even without using the divine art, he could feel the restrictions and influence of the laws of the world on the scarlet sword when he brandished it. However, being able to feel it was one thing, but without the divine art, it was still quite difficult to break the shackles. Integrating with the laws, being supported by the power of the laws of the world, Tsing Hui tried a few swords. Although the laws of the world had reduced the resistance to his swordsmanship because he had become extremely sensitive to the laws of the world, it was still a long way from being able to turn the power of the laws into driving force to enhance his swordsmanship. Furthermore, Tsing Hui had to completely calm his mind and even slow down his attack speed to be able to reduce the resistance to his swordsmanship. But to slow down his own speed, could the light-chasing divine art still be effective? The lawful embodiment of heaven and earth stage is really a little useless. If it's just pure defense, it can be effective, but in a fight, it may not be much stronger than an ordinary almighty. At best, it can only rely on its understanding of the laws to be 30 to 40% stronger than an ordinary almighty. Tsing Hui shook his head. Taking advantage of the fact that the effects of the limitless Tao fruit had not completely disappeared, he continued to immerse himself in the comprehension of the laws of the world, trying to deepen his understanding of the laws as much as possible. A month passed in the blink of an eye. After a month of meditation, Tsing Hui's understanding of the laws of the world had deepened, but he was still a little far from being able to use the laws of the world for his own use. At best, he could achieve a situation where the laws of the world did not pose too much of an obstacle when he attacked with all his strength. But even so, according to his calculations, the power of his Sword of the Sun was still 40% stronger than before, especially the speed of his attack. If he were to face another Saint Powerhouse, unless that Saint Powerhouse was fully prepared, he would be able to instantly kill that Saint Powerhouse with the power and speed of his Sword of the Sun, using the power of the laws of the world to strengthen oneself. Ordinary peak Saint Powerhouses rely on the power of the laws of the world to strengthen themselves, or more accurately, they rely on the power of the bloodline and the power of the spirit. The power of the laws of the world is said to be the power of the laws of the world, but I've already refined the power of the Golden Crow and the power of the Torch Dragon into the Scarlet Abyss Sword, so how could I have the power of the bloodline? Tsing Hui shook his head and stopped cultivating. It seems that I have to ask the Hidden Sword Venerable about this matter. After all, the Hidden Sword Venerable is an lawful embodiment of heaven and earth cultivator. With that thought in mind, Tsing Hui headed to the Hidden Sword Venerable's courtyard. While he was on the way, Tsing Hui saw the Firmament Master's disciple, Chen Guang, coming down. He bowed respectfully to him and said, Master invites you. Tsing Hui guessed that it was about the true god of suffering, so he nodded and followed Qin Guang to the Firmament Master's palace. Tsing Hui, you're here. How's it going? The Firmament Master asked eagerly as soon as he saw Tsing Hui. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Although I've come into contact with the laws of the world, I still can't merge with them and enter the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth state. You can't enter the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth state. That shouldn't be possible. The Firmament Master frowned in confusion. Maybe my foundation is too weak. I think it'll be better if I spend some more time carefully comprehending it. Tsing Hui was rather calm. The Firmament Master nodded and said, then you'll have to cultivate well. After that, he signaled Qin Guang with his eyes. Qin Guang immediately left with his people. After the servants left, the Firmament Master walked to the center of the hall and waved his hand. Instantly, dozens of big boxes appeared and piled up in the hall. These are the 1,500 Taoist items that the Black Flame sect used to redeem the true god of suffering. It seems like the Black Flame sect is very rich. They actually managed to gather 1,500 Taoist items in such a short time. Tsing Hui was a little surprised. The Black Flame sect can't afford to lose a divine being. However, I reckon that the Taoist item with 1,500 Taoist rhymes has already depleted the Black Flame sect. If a chaos war were to break out between the Black Flame sect and a top chaos organization at this time, the Black Flame sect would definitely be defeated. Because of this, they seem to be very enthusiastic about joining our alliance. During the negotiations a few days ago, our Sky Dome sect, Sword Shadow sect, and Rainbow Sword sect had benefited greatly. Tsing Hui nodded and said, it's good that I can help. Keep these Taoist items. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself when the time comes and take them for myself. The Firmament Master said with a smile. I believe in the Firmament Master's character. The Firmament Master shook his head and said, I'm telling the truth. Not everyone can resist the temptation of 1,500 Taoist rhymes. If you're not an ultimate powerhouse but an ordinary almighty, I'll most likely use the Firmament Master as an excuse to temporarily keep them for you. Never underestimate people's greed. Tsing Hui nodded thoughtfully when he heard that. An item with 1,500 Taoist rhymes was definitely enough to cause a life-and-death battle between two divine beings. It should be known that the war that destroyed the divine wilderness in the ancient times was also caused by an item with 1,000 Taoist rhymes. Although the Heavenly Way and the Eternal Emperor's conspiracy played a part in that war, it also indirectly proved how valuable an item with 1,000 Taoist rhymes was. Seeing Tsing Hui put away the Taoist items, the Firmament Master forcibly suppressed the distracting thoughts in his mind. Then, as if he had thought of something, he suddenly said, by the way, Tsing Hui, I remember you saying that you took back the Comely continent from the Heavenly Way. That's true. Then you have to pay attention. Recently, the Heavenly Way experts have been very active and have sent many experts to the Comely continent. Since it's outside the divine wilderness, we didn't pay much attention to it. We only said that the leader is the Thunder Punishment Taoist Master, who was previously in charge of the Comely continent. There hasn't been any news that Zhu Zhao has stepped into the insightful Void Realm yet, so it's not appropriate for us to start an all-out war with the Heavenly Way. If the Comely continent doesn't have much to gain from it, let's put it aside for now. Of course, if the Heavenly Way forces us into a corner, with our current influence, we don't have to be afraid of it. I understand. I'll contact my men on the Comely continent and ask about the specific situation. As Tsing Hui spoke, he sent a part of his consciousness into the Chaos Temple to contact Su Fei. Chapter 651. Tsing Hui arrived at a personal space specially created for the members of the Heavens Will Palace on the Comely continent. An unfamiliar man was waiting there. The man was slightly taken aback when he saw Tsing Hui, but he quickly bowed. Greetings, Senior Dongyang. Tell Su Fei to come see me. Su Fei. Palace Lord Su. The man was slightly taken aback, but he quickly bowed. I'll inform the palace lord right away. Less than 20 breaths after the man left, a beautiful figure appeared in the personal space. However, it wasn't Su Fei, but the other leader of the Heavens-Will Palace, Su Ying. Su Ying quickly bowed when she saw Tsing Hui. Senior. Father has been in the Bieli mountain range recently and hasn't returned yet, so he can't pay you a visit right away. Bieli mountain range? What's he doing there? Tsing Hui wasn't from the Conli continent, so he wasn't familiar with the names of the mountain ranges there. There's a mineral deposit there. Originally, the production wasn't high, but because the people there kept digging, they seem to have discovered a new vein hidden deep underground. Father is currently investigating there with his men. A new mineral deposit? Su Fei should have a son of chaos by his side, right? Contact Su Fei and tell him to come here in 2 hours. I have something to ask him. Yes, Senior. We'll contact him right away. Su Ying respectfully acknowledged. Tsing Hui nodded and his consciousness left the Chaos Temple. How is it? Have you figured out what the Heavenly Tao is up to? Firmament Master asked with a smile. It should have something to do with dust cleansing stones. There seems to be a new vein there. Dust cleansing stones? Firmament Master nodded. The Heavenly Tao has been constantly excavating on the Conli continent in the past few years and has unearthed many dust cleansing stones. However, judging from the special force field that still exists on the Conli continent, there should still be many dust cleansing stones on the continent. I'm guessing the Heavenly Tao wants to create more dust cleansing armor. The Heavenly Tao? Why are they creating dust cleansing armor? Are they trying to travel through the void to other worlds? How is that possible? Even traversing realm experts wouldn't dare to say that they could rely on their own strength to fly across 2 worlds. However, if they were careless and fell into the void, the result of a battle between those with and without the dust-leaving armor would be completely different. You should understand that if a Saint Realm expert was trapped in a spatial crack for 2 to 3 years without being able to find a way out, they could die from exhaustion, let alone those void spaces far away from the world. The Firmament Master knew that Qing Su had only cultivated for a short period of time, so he did not understand these basics. He immediately waved his hand and said, "You can think of the world as a continent. The further away you are from the continent, the larger the waves, and the further you are from the world, the stronger the spatial storms. Under normal circumstances, void-shattering experts possess the ability to break through the barrier of the world and travel through the void. However, once they are too far away from the world and encounter powerful spatial storms, only death awaits them in the end. At that time, the armor of immortality will become extremely important." When Tsing Hui heard this, he nodded slightly. In fact, what the Divine Wilderness did back then was equivalent to betraying our Divine Wilderness world. Even if they find all kinds of excuses to cover up their mistakes, they still can't change the harm they brought to our Divine Wilderness. However, the reason they were able to attract so many powerful experts and even Saint Realm experts to join them is because they have a dust-cleansing flying ship, which is the existence of the 2-realm boat. The Firmament Master sighed, with the 2-realm boat, the Divine Wilderness has the ability to travel between 2 worlds. As long as they can go to other worlds and obtain the rich resources in those worlds, many saints who join the Divine Wilderness will be able to break through and step into the insightful emptiness realm. They might even have a chance to cultivate the Divine True Body in the future. The temptation of the Divine True Body was too great. It was almost equivalent to the temptation of the Golden Elixir realm for cultivators below the Golden Elixir realm. Before reaching the Golden Elixir realm, cultivators could only live for a few hundred years at most. Once they reached the Golden Elixir realm, they could easily live for 1,000 years. Because of this, there was a strange phenomenon in the cultivation world where there were more Golden Elixir realm cultivators than Endless realm cultivators. The divine true body realm was similar to the golden elixir realm. Once cultivated, one would have a lifespan of at least 10,000 years. Those with a long lifespan could even live for hundreds of thousands of years. Because of this, even if many people knew that the divine wilderness was a traitor of the divine wilderness world, they still turned a blind eye to it and chose to join the divine wilderness. This allowed the divine wilderness to grow stronger and become a powerhouse that stood above other forces. A dust-cleansing flying ship can't carry too many people, right? Indeed, it can't carry too many people, but it can still carry a few dozen people. Moreover, the dust-cleansing flying ship is much faster than other warships. According to the information they obtained from the divine wilderness, the closest world to us can be reached in 600 years with the dust-cleansing flying ship. Although that world isn't as powerful as the world behind the heavenly Tao and the eternal realm, it's enough for the people in the divine wilderness to temporarily recuperate, cultivate their domain to perfection, and then break through to the shattering void realm. Venerable Master Firmament said and shook his head. Tsing Hui, go to the Calmly continent and take a look. If there are any peerless grade dust-cleansing stones, remember to leave them behind. Although we don't even have 1,000 cubes of peerless grade dust-cleansing flying ship, we have to accumulate them slowly. Otherwise, as time passes, the cultivation environment in the divine wilderness will become worse and worse, and it will be difficult for us to leave in the future. I understand. My representative in the Calmly continent is on his way. Okay, if you need any help, just let me know. Venerable Master Firmament said. Tsing Hui nodded. He didn't stay long in Venerable Master Firmament's courtyard. He had left the cultivation room to ask Hidden Sword Venerable about the cultivation method of the law phenomenon, so he naturally had to hurry over. Tsing Hui. I heard that you're cultivating in seclusion. Have you made some progress? Hidden Sword Venerable was holding his natal divine sword and quietly comprehending something in the courtyard. When he saw Tsing Hui, he smiled and asked. Seeing that Hidden Sword Venerable seemed to be in a good mood, Tsing Hui smiled and asked, Venerable Sword Venerable, did the Black Flame sect send Master Qixin here? Yes, it's here. Furthermore, I've taken my revenge. Hidden Sword Venerable nodded and said to Tsing Hui with gratitude, Tsing Hui, thank you for this. Otherwise, with the protection of the 3 Saint Realm Giants of the Black Flame sect, it would be impossible for me to kill Master Qixin, who was hiding in the Black Flame sect. You don't have to be so polite, Venerable Sword Venerable. In fact, you should have told me about this earlier. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been in danger. Hidden Sword Venerable smiled bitterly and said, at that time, although you had cultivated the ultimate sword principle and had amazing battle strength, you were nothing compared to the Black Flame sect. I just didn't want you to put yourself in danger because of me. Plus, I'm old and can't live for more than a few decades. It's better to take a risk while I still have strength. As long as I can kill Master Qixin, even if I'm killed by the Black Flame sect, I can die without regrets. After all, I've asked you to take care of the Hidden Sword sect. Even if I die, the Hidden Sword sect won't be destroyed because of you. It's better for you to take care of the Hidden Sword sect. Tsing Hui said with a smile. Hidden Sword Venerable nodded and said, have you settled the matter here? If so, I want you to go back to the Hidden Sword sect with me. I have something to tell you. Go back to the Hidden Sword sect. Tsing Hui thought for a while and said, it shouldn't be a big deal. Plus, it won't take long to go back. We can just use the transmission skill. You'll have to stay in the Hidden Sword sect for a while. Therefore, it's better for you to go back after you've settled the matter here. Do you want me to teach the disciples in the Hidden Sword sect? Qing Su smiled, I'm still a dabbler myself, so I've come to ask you, Sword Sovereign, how do cultivators of the way of the sword cultivate the law phenomenon of heaven and earth? Law phenomenon realm. Hidden Sword Venerable paused for a moment and quickly understood what Tsing Hui wanted to ask. He smiled bitterly and said, don't ask me. In fact, I don't know how to solve the law phenomenon realm either. I first broke through to the law phenomenon realm and then switched to the ultimate sword principle. It's similar to the ultimate sword principle that you cultivated when you were in the golden elixir realm. I really don't know how to help you enter the law phenomenon realm. Xing Hui heard this and felt a little helpless. In fact, you've already walked ahead of me. The next step of the ultimate sword principle that I've deduced is the sword force. You've already cultivated the sword force, and its power is very obvious. I'm quite pleased about this. As for how you're going to walk on the next path, it's entirely up to you. Even if it's me, I'm afraid I have to follow the path you've opened up. Xing Hui put away his helpless thoughts and nodded slightly. Don't worry, Sword Venerable. I'll think of a way. In fact, I'm wondering if I should skip the law phenomenon realm and directly cultivate the sword territory. Cultivate the sword territory? Without the laws of heaven and earth, how useful can it be even if you cultivate the territory? Xing Hui frowned. Do I have to skip the realm and the void transformation realm? Shatter the vacuum? However, if other ultimate sword principle cultivators reach my level, they won't be able to shatter the vacuum. By then, won't they be stuck at the sword force level forever? Hidden Sword Venerable heard Xing Hui's words and fell silent. 2 hours passed quickly while he was thinking. Seeing how the two of them were unable to figure out the next cultivation method, all Qing Su could do was say, then let's work on the sword force, the mind, and so on. With a solid foundation, our battle prowess will obviously increase. Since I can't think of a suitable direction, this is the only way. Hidden Sword Venerable sighed. Xing Hui did not insist. Seeing that it was time, he split a part of his spiritual force into the Chaos Shrine's personal space. In the personal space that belonged to the Comely continent, Su Fei and Su Ying were already waiting there. When they saw Xing Hui, they bowed again. Su Fei, I heard that you found a new mineral deposit in the Separation Mountain Range. How's the reserve? Senior, this is what I wanted to report to you. The reserve of the dust cleansing stone mineral deposit is amazing. According to estimates, there are 200,000 low-grade dust cleansing stones, 30,000 high-grade dust cleansing stones, and 4,000 high-grade dust cleansing stones. Su Fei said happily. When Xing Hui heard this number, he was suddenly enlightened. 200,000 low-grade dust cleansing stones, 30,000 high-grade dust cleansing stones, and 4,000 high-grade dust cleansing stones. Are you telling the truth? It's absolutely true. Su Fei said confidently. At the same time, he said with a hint of praise in his tone, currently, we've already mined 1/3 of the mineral deposit. When the mineral deposit is completely mined, we'll directly contact you and contribute all the dust cleansing stones that we've mined to you. Chapter 652. Bieli Mountain Range. Su Fei, who was in his own courtyard, trembled slightly, his eyes unfocused, but a moment later, his eyes flashed with a biting cold light. This light, compared to his body, was fiercer and more imposing. Even the blue underworld realm guard in front of him trembled under this gaze, involuntarily took a step back. It was a good while before the guard recovered his senses, looking at Su Fei in awe. Palace Master, you withdraw. Su Fei waved his hand. Yes. The guard commander respectfully retreated and closed the door. And as the guard left, the personal space opened, and a figure stepped out of the distorted space. It was Xing Hui. When Xing Hui came out of the personal space, Su Fei trembled again, a trace of confusion flashing across his eyes, but he quickly reacted, quickly bowing respectfully to Xing Hui, greetings elder. Good, where are the excavated dust stones? At present, there are 1,084 pieces of the best dust stones unearthed. Because subordinates' personal space is limited, these dust stones have been stored in the mineral warehouse, and have been personally guarded by elites. A piece of dust stone was in fact 1 cubic meter, and the personal space of a person was only 10 cubic meters, so naturally it could not contain that many dust stones. "Take me there," Tsing Hui said. "Elder, please." Su Fei hurriedly led the way. As the two went out, the guard outside couldn't help but be taken aback, and was about to come forward, when Su Fei hurriedly shouted at him, "Hey Tan, this is the most respected guest of our Heavens Will Palace, from now on you have to treat the orders of this elder as if they are my orders, do you understand?" The guard named He Tan was taken aback. He had long guessed that the reason why Su Fei and his family were able to sit on the throne of the palace master of the Heavens Will Palace was because they had secretly received the support of a certain important person of Heaven Wasteland domain. Now seeing Tsing Hui's imposing manner, and the way Su Fei addressed him, he immediately understood something, and hurriedly knelt down. "Subordinate He Tan, greets Elder. If Elder has any instructions in the future, please do so." "Yes." Tsing Hui said calmly, and under the lead of Su Fei, went straight to the mineral warehouse. The mineral warehouse was personally guarded by several hundred elites. Among these several hundred people, even the weakest one had the cultivation of the true Qi realm. The leader had even reached the level of spirit and Qi as one. Compared to Su Fei, he was not inferior. However, due to Su Fei's excellent foundation from Qing Su and his high-class God artifact, his battle prowess could not be compared to regular Blue Netherworld realm experts. As a result, he was still able to suppress these Blue Netherworld realm guards and make them obey his orders. "Father, this is..." When Su Fei arrived at the mine warehouse, a woman immediately came up to greet him. It was one of Su Fei's daughter. Compared to when Tsing Hui left back then, Su Qiubai's cultivation base had made sufficient progress, and she had now reached the level of the divine Qi as one. Seeing Tsing Hui respectfully led by Su Fei, Su Qiubai was slightly taken aback. Then, as if thinking of something, she looked at Tsing Hui with a hint of awe and confusion. "Father, this is Senior Dong Yang," Su Fei said cautiously. Su Qiubai hurriedly bowed. But Tsing Hui waved his hand and went directly into the warehouse with Su Fei. In the warehouse, there were a large number of dust-repellent stones. Among these dust-repellent stones, the production of low-grade dust-repellent stones had reached more than 40,000 cubic meters, the production of high-grade dust-repellent stones was more than 10,000 cubic meters, and the production of top-grade dust-repellent stones was more than 1,000 cubic meters. With so many dust-repellent stones piled together, it was equivalent to thousands of Daoist items. Even though Tsing Hui had just received 1,500 Daoist rhymes not long ago, he still felt suffocated. Of course, due to the low-grade and high-grade dust-repellent stones not having much effect, if there were hundreds of thousands of low-grade dust-repellent stones and tens of thousands of high-grade dust-repellent stones in the market, it would definitely cause the price of dust-repellent stones to drop. Even so, the sky-high price behind the dust-repellent stones was enough for Tsing Hui to treat it seriously. Without hesitation, Tsing Hui quickly went forward and was about to put all the dust-repellent stones into his personal space. However, when he arrived in front of the dust-repellent stones, his expression changed abruptly. In a flash, he appeared next to a piece of top-grade dust-repellent stone. He picked it up and clenched it hard. Suddenly, the top-grade dust-repellent stone that was strong enough to be smelted into a dust-repellent flying boat crumbled like fine sand. This. Su Fei was stunned when he saw this. Su Qiubai couldn't help but widen his eyes. Tsing Hui's expression turned cold as he quickly went forward. The first few pieces of top-grade dust-repellent stones were fake, but when he reached the interior, the piles of stones were simply illusions formed by the formation. As Tsing Hui stepped in, they all vanished. The low-grade and high-grade dust-repellent stones were still there, but more than 1,000 pieces of top-grade dust-repellent stones had vanished without a trace. This. How could this be? How could this be? I personally watched these dust-repellent stones being sent into the warehouse. Su Fei was in disbelief when he saw this. In order to preserve his battle strength, the Thunder Punishment Daoist master didn't directly descend on the Kongli continent. Instead, he relied on a void envoy to descend on a nearby continent. According to the estimation of the distance, it should take another day or two before he truly sets foot on the Kongli continent. Since these people chose to steal the dust-repellent stones silently, it's clear that they don't have the power to resist the Heavens Will Palace forces that I left on this continent. In that case, the ones who stole the dust-repellent stones must be forces on the Kongli continent that have defected to the Heavens Will Palace. These forces can't be that strong. Send the order immediately to capture everyone who has come to this warehouse. Tsing Hui immediately shouted. Yes. Su Fei quivered and quickly passed down the order. As the palace master of the Heavens Will Palace gave the order, the entire mine was alarmed. Countless guards quickly ran up and down the mountain to capture anyone suspicious. However, Tsing Hui's expression was somewhat dignified when he sensed the chaos in the Bili mountain range. He wasn't someone from the Kongli continent. Although Su Fei and the others controlled the Heavens Will Palace, due to the short period of time, they didn't have complete control over the Kongli continent. No one knew how many spies from other forces were hidden in the Kongli continent. It was even possible that the miners who were excavating the dust-repellent stones were spies from other forces. I should have brought some people from the Heavens Vault of Heaven first. It wouldn't be like this where there's no one to use. Tsing Hui felt that he had miscalculated. At the same time, he ordered again, pass down the order, no one is allowed to leave the Bili mountain range. Those who rashly escape will be killed without mercy. Yes, Senior. Su Fei also understood that he had made a big mistake and quickly tried to make up for it. Qing Su's body did not move, but his soul left his body and rose into the air. He used the aura examination technique and looked around rapidly. Before long, three presences that were clearly at the green darkness realm and the spirit as one realm, but had been hidden to the true Qi realm and spirit refining realm through some special methods, appeared before him. When he locked onto the three auras, the owners of the three auras were quickly retreating out of the Bili mountain range. Don't you think it's too late to leave now? Tsing Hui's primordial spirit returned to his body. Before Su Fei and the others could react, he had already whizzed past. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the group consisting of a Qingming realm and two Spirit Qi Unite realm cultivators. Seeing Tsing Hui suddenly appear, the three of them reacted quickly. Among them, the Qingming realm middle-aged man roared, "I'll stop him. You protect Hunting Wolf and leave first." Leave? Who can you leave with? Tsing Hui looked at the Qingming realm man in front of him and slightly released his sword force. Suddenly, a destructive aura came crashing down like Mount Tai. Before the three of them had the time to resist, they were already forced to kneel on the ground. The Qingming realm cultivator who tried to resist the sword force vomited blood, looking extremely miserable. The Qingming realm cultivator felt the terrifying aura from Tsing Hui that far exceeded his imagination. He immediately widened his eyes, true element realm. No, the aura of a true element realm cultivator can't be this terrifying. Even the transformative realm and endless realm cultivators can't be this strong. Golden Dan. You're a Golden Dan realm cultivator. Tsing Hui was too lazy to pay attention to the Qingming realm cultivator. His gaze landed on the Spirit Qi Unite realm cultivator that the two of them were protecting. The dust-repelling stone is on you, right? It seems that the level of your personal space has increased quite a bit. Hand over the dust-repelling stone. Otherwise, I'll make you beg for death. The young Hunting Wolf's expression changed slightly. He naturally knew what kind of torture would happen if he was captured alive. Due to the existence of the Son of Chaos in this world, the research on torturing others had almost reached the pinnacle. Masters of torture and interrogation could be found everywhere, and any one of them could make others beg for death. In particular, some people had specially invented some torture drugs that could increase a person's pain by more than 10 times, tormenting the will of others. Other than those existences above the divine realm who were about to break away from the level of their physical bodies, few others could withstand the torture. Oh, right. I have to be careful not to let you commit suicide. With a flick of Ching Su's hand, a strand of sword chi immediately shot into the young hunting wolf's body, sealing up all his meridians and acupoints. At that moment, the young man discovered to his shock that while he could maintain his consciousness, he could not even control his own body. You rumble. The hunting wolf was just about to say something in frustration, but at this moment, a tremendous presence swept over with a pressure that blotted out the sky. Before the person had even arrived, his voice had already swept over a small portion of the continent like a thunderclap. It rang out in the sky, "I am the lightning punishment thou Lord. From today onwards, the entire continent belongs to me. Anyone who disobeys my orders will be killed without mercy." Chapter 653. The Thunder Punishment Taoist Master. It's the Thunder Punishment Taoist Master from the prosperous and powerful Heaven Wasteland domain. The Thunder Punishment Taoist Master is the person behind the Heavens Will Palace. Back then, the Palace Master of the Heavens Will Palace, Huang Fu Peng, was a descendant of the Thunder Punishment Taoist Master. It's said that the Thunder Punishment Taoist Master's power is at the top of the prosperous and dazzling Heaven Wasteland domain, where there are countless experts. Any one of them can easily destroy our entire Kong Li continent. The Thunder Punishment Taoist Master is here. It's over. The Su family is done for. No matter how strong the power behind them is or how great their background is, they can't bear the anger of the Thunder Punishment Taoist Master. When they heard the mighty voice that swept through half of the Kong Li continent like divine thunder from the ninth heaven, everyone on the Kong Li continent became anxious and even threatened the Su family's rule over the Heavens Will Palace. The people of the Heavens Will Palace who had been expelled by the Su family through Tsing Hui were wild with joy, and they welcomed the arrival of the Thunder Punishment Taoist Master with joy. The Thunder Punishment Taoist Master. Tsing Hui looked at Hunting Wolf and the other two, whose eyes were also wild with joy. With a shake of his hand, he knocked the three unconscious and kept them in his personal space. Then, he rose into the air and flew quickly in the direction of the Thunder Punishment Taoist Master's voice. In less than 100 kilometers, he encountered a large warship that was riding the wind and breaking the waves in the clouds. The battleship was a battleship, but whether it was its size or speed, it was much larger than any battleship he had seen in Qingsu. In particular, the battleship actually gave off a special pulse when it flew, just like how Buddhist phenomena of nature and earth could borrow the power of the laws of the world. As a result, not only would such a huge battleship not feel any resistance when it flew through the clouds, but it could even use external forces for its own use, increasing the battleship's speed. Tsing Hui estimated that the warship's flying speed was not inferior to that of a Golden Core realm expert flying at full speed with a 10th level flying sword. It was at least 5,000 kilometers per hour. This warship, as Tsing Hui studied the battleship, he suddenly sensed something. The next moment, 3 streaks of light whizzed out from the battleship at the same time. They tore through the sky and blasted towards Tsing Hui. Clang! Unable to continue observing, Tsing Hui unsheathed the Scarlet Abyss sword in his hand. 3 sword shadows directly collided with the 3 streaks of light from the large battleship. For a moment, a violent shockwave spread out from the Scarlet Abyss sword, accompanied by a shockwave that swept out recklessly, tearing apart the clouds in a radius of several kilometers. Under this shockwave, the careless Tsing Hui was actually sent flying, and it took him a while to stabilize himself. This kind of power isn't inferior to the divine ability of an almighty. Tsing Hui's expression changed. The divine ability of an almighty could often cause devastating damage within dozens of kilometers. If it was an area of effect divine ability attack, it was enough to turn a radius of hundreds of kilometers into a purgatory of death. This kind of means was already equivalent to a star-destroying existence. Tsing Hui had seen the star-annihilating cannons of the Xiaya Empire's planet-level battleship. Its power was similar to the divine ability of an almighty. After all, if an almighty condensed the divine ability attack into one, blasting it underground for dozens of kilometers would not be a problem. At that time, the divine ability would detonate, and it would immediately cause a planet with a diameter of thousands of kilometers to lose balance, causing the planet to collapse. The warship in front of him could blast out 3 streaks of light that were comparable to the star-annihilating cannons in one breath. Its alchemy level was very high, and it was probably an outstanding existence in the Xiaya Empire. It seems that Tian Dao's wealth is extraordinary. Again. Do you really think this kind of attack can do anything to me? Tsing Hui blocked the 3 streaks of light, and just as he stabilized his body, the warship in front of him once again lit up with a bright radiance. However, Tsing Hui, who had stayed in the Xiaya Empire for 3 days, understood that attacks similar to warships and star-annihilating cannons had a fatal flaw, which was that they were not flexible enough and could only attack in a straight line. For Tsing Hui, who could easily increase his speed to dozens of kilometers per second, dodging this kind of attack was a piece of cake. Xiao! Tsing Hui's figure flickered, and he directly dodged these streaks of light. At the same time, he took a step forward and instantly closed the distance between him and the warship by dozens of kilometers. At the same time, the deep red sword in his hand burst out with a dazzling light, and a bright and blazing sword energy, like a giant laser cannon on a stellar-level warship, shot down with a loud bang, carrying the power to burn the sky and boil the sea, and heavily slashed the large warship. However, just as this sword was about to hit the large warship and completely turn it into void dust, a streak of light flashed on the warship, and a layer of transparent array appeared. Under the guidance of the array, the sword energy was directly diverted to one side, just like the refraction of light by a mirror, easily making Tsing Hui's sword energy disappear. It only had time to tear a huge crack in the ground more than 10 kilometers below, causing bursts of rumbling sounds. Although the power of my sword energy isn't that great, it's still comparable to a mighty figure's attack. This warship's defensive array actually withstood it. However, if it can withstand a casual strike of mine, can it withstand my sword of sunburst? Tsing Hui snorted coldly and was about to unsheath the deep red sword again. It seems that you're the person who dared to plot against my heavenly Dao's assets on the Comely continent. A divine tier cultivator dares to make an enemy of my heavenly Dao, how bold of you. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the warship. Immediately afterward, a tall man with a bald head, face, and body covered in mysterious runes slowly rose from the large warship. This tall man's gaze seemed to have a mysterious power that could see through people's hearts. When he looked at Tsing Hui actually felt like he had nowhere to hide, as if all of his secrets would be exposed with a single glance. The Thunder Punishment Dao Lord? Tsing Hui frowned. This feeling of being seen through made him feel a little uncomfortable. However, after a moment, he seemed to have thought of something. It seemed like, the Thunder Punishment Dao Lord was a mighty figure in the heavenly Dao who had raised his appraisal technique to the peak of level 10. That feeling of being spied on, level 10 appraisal technique? At this moment, the Thunder Punishment Dao Lord seemed to have realized something. His expression changed slightly. Although you're only at the divine tier, your chaos level is so high. You're at least a level 35 son of chaos. Since when did such a person exist in Tianhuang region? Little thief, tell me your name. Otherwise, you won't have this chance. Stop pretending to be mysterious. Tsing Hui couldn't be bothered to waste any more words with the Thunder Punishment Dao Lord. He suddenly charged forward. Without needing to use any divine abilities, the deep red sword already emitted a dazzling light. The mighty and blazing sword of Sunburst was like a falling sun, carrying with it a vast and mighty force that could destroy stars. This is your true divine ability. The Thunder Punishment Dao Lord's expression changed when he sensed the terrifying power of Tsing Hui's sword of Sunburst. However, he quickly calmed down. The next moment, he was already facing the trajectory of Tsing Hui's sword light. As he roared, a visible sound wave spread out from him. In an instant, it covered a radius of tens of kilometers. The sound wave collided violently with the surrounding air and space, exploding into dazzling lightning bolts. As he clenched his left hand, all the lightning bolts within a radius of tens of kilometers were caught in his hand. Then, he merged them with the long spear in his right hand. Suddenly, the lightning on the long spear shone to an unprecedented degree. Then, he aimed at Tsing Hui and threw the spear. Rumble. The lightning bolt pierced through the air, bringing with it a soul-shaking sound of thunder. It caused Tsing Hui's mind to tremble. With the combination of the two, if his opponent was a lawful embodiment of heaven and earth like him or an ordinary almighty, just this attack alone would be enough to severely injure the other party. Unfortunately, this time, he was facing Tsing Hui. His mind power was so powerful that it had reached level 142. The most destructive sound of thunder only caused a slight ripple in his mind. As for the lightning bolt that was about to strike Tsing Hui easily dodged it the moment the Thunder Punishment Tao Lord threw it. After Tsing Hui dodged the attack of the Thunder Punishment Spear, the sword light of the Sword of Sunburst landed on the Thunder Punishment Tao Lord's body. The surging waves of energy instantly exploded. Then, they were blocked by a protective item on the Thunder Punishment Tao Lord's body. It's useless. The Thunder Punishment Tao Lord had a cruel and cold expression on his face. This 4 divisions pearl that I have is a defensive treasure that was excavated from an ancient cave abode. Its level is at level 14, and it has a powerful defensive effect against earth, water, fire, and wind elemental attacks. I once did an experiment and relied on this 4 divisions pearl to block a total of 23 divine abilities from an almighty from the heavenly Tao. No matter how strong your divine ability is, or even if it has been perfected by you to the standard of a great divine ability, it's impossible for it to exceed the total of 23 divine abilities. As he spoke, he clenched his fist and an invisible lightning spear formed in his hand once again. On the other hand, I can rely on the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth to continuously absorb the void divine lightning from the void. Together with this level 13 Thunder God Spear, I can continuously strike out the God-destroying thunder punishment at an extremely fast speed. With the support of the Thunder God Spear, the God-destroying thunder's attack power is not only shocking, but it can also shake the soul of others. Even if you are an lawful embodiment of heaven and earth expert, your soul will still be shaken after being struck by my God-destroying thunder more than 10 times, let alone a mighty figure like you. This is the reason why I, the Thunder Punishment Tao Lord, am one of the top 36 Tao Lords of the Heavenly Tao. Are you done? Tsing Hui looked at the Thunder Punishment Tao Lord, who had once again formed a lightning spear. Since you're so powerful, you can just tell your family about it. There's no need to say anything more to me. Now, take this sword intent of mine. At the next moment, a vast and majestic sword intent exploded from Tsing Hui's body. It was like a scorching sun that hung in the sky and illuminated the world, shining brilliantly. Before this sword intent that was infused with the God-piercing secret spiritual technique, the 4 divisions pearl, which could only defend against earth, water, fire, and wind attacks, was completely useless. It was directly ignored and penetrated by the sword intent that exploded from Tsing Hui. Then, it was reflected in the Thunder Punishment Tao Lord's spiritual world. Instantly, the spiritual world of the Thunder Punishment Tao Lord, who had always been proficient in using the God-destroying thunder to shake the soul of others, turned into a sea of flames. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.